Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be doing a review of Commander Legends for the Commander War Chest, which is one of my favorite ways to play Commander. At least pre-COVID was one of my favorite ways. And we have a special guest. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi there. My name's Eric Landis. I am the co-host of the One Mana Short podcast and been kind of a follower of Jonathan's for quite a while, starting really back with his original War Chest articles back on, I think it was on Gathering Magic at the time.
Yeah, Gathering Magic.
Yeah.
So that's where I started. For those of you who don't know what the Commander War Chest is, it's basically so there was this format that was made by Brian DeMars. It was called the Battle Box. When it originally was made, it was called the Danger Room, and he published an article on Star City Games, and it was basically a way for pros to practice limited, kind of a limited style environment. And what it was is you play from a shared library, and and then you get a land set. This is one of the big features of the Battle Box, War Chest, Danger Room, whatever you want to call it. Um, the land set is off to the side, so there's no problems with mana. You don't have those games where you have two lands, one person has two lands and everyone else is ramping like crazy. And so what I did is I took his concept of just a one versus one limited style kind of format, and I said, how could we extend this out to my favorite format, Commander? So basically what I've done is originally it was just one shared library, so all the cards were in one library, and what I've done since then is I've broken it up into 6 shared libraries, which sounds cumbersome at first, but it's totally worth it, and it's really not that bad. As long as you sleeve the decks in different color sleeves, it makes all the difference, because so much easier to shuffle them back up and put them back away, to bring them out, this kind of thing. So um so that's really what the battle box is basically you have a land set, you're playing from a shared library, you have a commander, um and it's just regular commander, just from that premise. Now when I did those articles, I made a budget copy, right, Eric? And
Mm-hmm.
that's what you kind of took on. And now, have you made many changes to the budget copy, or?
Very few. I've swapped around a handful of cards, but it is still 95% in the state it was. I think it was around Hour of Devastation
Okay.
when those articles came out. So it's still in that state for the most part. I've swapped in maybe 10 cards.
Okay,
And
cool.
it's mostly because, I had one copy of a card that was in there. It's like I wanted it for a deck. So I took it out and put something in to replace it.
That's one
But
of the cool things.
yeah, I liked. I've had some great experiences playing the single library version,
Mhm.
and so I think we've talked about this over the last few months. I think I'm going to stick with the single library version. I kind of like that, the common experience feel from it,
Right.
and the ability to. I mean, we talked about this a little bit. The ability to use gold cards.
Right. And that's one of the things that I ditched when building the new version of the Commander War Chest. Was in the original version I had gold cards, like things like Maelstrom Pulse, or just common, uh Vindicate, stuff
Mhm.
that you would naturally expect in Commander, multicolor cards. In the new version of the War Chest, the only multicolor cards are the commanders. And I was worried, hey, we might lose some of that commander feel. And I feel like I haven't lost anything. It's been really nice to have those libraries. So we're coming at it from two different perspectives.
Mhm.
Eric has his experience with the common library, and he's using a budget version of the um the the war chest. I'm using the multiple library version. And really the great thing about this is you could do it however you want, right? You can play a single library, you can play the multiple library version. It's really the rule set is pretty flexible to fit that kind of stuff. I think the main, what would you say, like, the main common denominators are between the
Uh,
two
between the
ideas?
two.
Yeah.
Um, versatility in the card selection. You know, whatever your set of commanders that you're trying to support is, that you're supporting those. It's very much like a cube in that
Right.
respect,
Mhm.
where you're choosing cards that support a particular theme. Like in your budget version, and I kept it in there because I kind of like Bogles and Modern. Earl the Miststalker is one of the commanders available to choose. So you need some level of aura support, you know, for Earl to be usable. And it's that kind of thing where, you know, your commander selection determines the cards that you go in it. And as they've been printing so many new commanders recently, as we'll see today, um, that can help you modify the cube to how you want it to be. You know, choose the commanders you want to see.
Right, right. Now, I don't want to go too much in the weeds about like for those of you who are not familiar with the Commander War Chest, there's an article on the MTG Bazaar. It's a small article. It just kind of tells you the breakdown of how to play the Commander War Chest and how to, you know, and the full list is there. So you can always go there. I'll leave that in the show notes so that you can kind of get brushed up on what are we talking about, right? Um, and so we're going to start with commanders, the commanders from Commander Legends that we were interested in adding to our different implementations of the war chest. So I think a lot of them are the same for me. So I'll let you start off with yours, and then I can talk a bit, you know, about them as we go. So we'll introduce the first one. The first one is Tevish Sat Doom of Fools. Is that right? Sat?
I
Is that
think
how you
it's
say it?
Zot.
Zot.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, that is the black planeswalker in this set. Tevish Zot's 4 and a black for a legendary planeswalker for loyalty. It's +2, gives you 2/0/1 black thrall creature tokens.
Mm-hmm.
As +1 is you can sacrifice another creature or planeswalker. If you do, draw 2 cards, then draw another card if the sacrifice permanent was a commander. Is
Right.
minus
So
10. Yeah, is -10 as you gain control of all commanders. And even if they're in a command zone,
so you bring them down, put them in.
yeah, you get control of them. And it has partner, and it can be your commander. So, you know, this plays into a black something token strategy. It plays into a sacrifice strategy. It plays into a copy steal strategy. So whichever one of these or multiple of these you want to support in your battle box, this is a great option to have available for a commander.
Right. I ended up this was also on my list because I like it as I feel like it's kind of like a slower commander, and like I like to build that dynamic where you have some aggressive commanders. Like in my war chest, I have um, what is the name of this little token commander? Let me see if I can. It's it's a 2 mana commander that when it attacks you make a token, or when you tap it you make a token.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm blanking on the name here, but when you support something like that, I'll pull it up on the screen down here. I have it available. So like something aggressive like that, I like to make a balance between aggression and then some like kind of control elements. Amara, Soul of the Accord is the thing I'm talking about. So you have something like Amara, and then you have something like Tevish on the other side of the battlefield, and you can tell they're two different like philosophies. The first one is like attack, right? Build a board, get out of control, snowball. And Tevish is doing some more value grinding, slower stuff. So I ended up also having him on my list because of that slow style of play that I think it brings to the war chest.
Yeah,
All right.
it's you know, got to survive that initial rush, and if you do, the power starts coming in.
Right. And the fact that it's very splashy, right? Put all commanders in play
Oh
or
yeah.
take control. That's just so cool. People are going to want to do that. Now, this was an interesting one that you picked. Hamaz, Guardian of Arashin, right?
Hamza, I think it is.
Hamza.
Yeah.
Hamza. I'm gonna be murdering these
Oh, these names.
names.
I mean, it's always a guess, right? So this one, so Hamza, Guardian of Arashin, 4 green white for a legendary creature, Elephant Warrior. I think this is our
Mhm.
first legendary elephant. Spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it.
Right.
And it's a 5/5. So +1/+1 counter theme, right? This is also I almost wish they had made this creature a Hydra, because this is perfect to head a Hydra deck or a Hydra theme in your battle box.
Right.
But yeah, if you're doing +1/+1 counter support, this is a great commander to be running there.
I agree. I did not include it in mine because I've been moving away from +1/+1 counters.
Okay.
It's hard to get like a critical mass of +1/+1 counter cards, that you kind of want a lot of the war chest cards to do like multifunction, right? You want somebody who draws the card to be able to play it in different ways, right? That's why modal cards are great for the war chest, because it's like, oh, it's a modal card. You could play it to your different strengths. And I have not found enough like +1/+1 counters cards to kind of get that critical mass where I feel like Hamza would be like really impactful, right? Because you would have to really pack the white and green. See, this is where these libraries really shine, right? Is if you wanted to play something like Hamza in your war chest, you could do whatever you want. Like, it's not going to be bad, I mean, it's all fine. But like, if you really wanted to get the value out of it with the multi deck version, you could pack the white and green decks with +1/+1 counter synergies without impacting the black cards and the blue cards, right? When you have them all together, it's much harder to tune for a commander, because it's just like you're drawing randomly off the top. It takes away some of that randomness, which is really nice to have, but I think there's enough randomness in just drawing from one of those libraries to make it, that you don't lose that much, and you can like fine tune stuff like this.
Right.
You can just pack the green, or you could do like just pack the green library with +1/+1 counters. Then ideally like half the cards they draw will support their commander, or
right. And you can do things like with the utility lands, putting Karn's Bastion in. You can, there's some options there to bring it to the forefront.
Exactly. So that's cool. I thought that was interesting. Nevin Earl, Urborg Tyrant.
Yes.
This is a good one. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, Larry Niven finally gets his own card. For those who don't know, Nevinyrral is Larry Niven spelled backwards, the science fiction author. And he had written books on Discworld, and that's why it's Nevinyrral's Disc. And there's
that's crazy, the little there. Easter eggs there, right?
Yeah, going all the way back to Alpha here. But Nevinyrral Urborg Tyrant is an Esper commander, 3 white, blue, black. For a legendary creature, zombie wizard, 3/6. Has hexproof from artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, which is an odd thing until you remember how Nevinyrral's Disc works.
Right.
When Nevinyrral enters the battlefield, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token for each creature that died this turn. Now we're getting back into a sacrifice theme possibly here.
Yeah.
And when Nevinyrral dies, you may pay 1. When you do, destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments.
Such a cool callback.
It is. I love the artifact or spell on legs, with the Magus cycle and things like that. Nevinyrral is Nevinyrral's Disc in a creature. So this is a way for you to have some board control in your commander, or it works with a zombie theme. It works with a sacrifice theme. Even if you've got a keywords matter kind of theme, with it having hexproof, that can, if you've got the new Akroma or you've got Audric or something like that, where you care about keywords. Now Nevinyrral's bringing one into play with hexproof.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Like we'll get to probably Akroma, I'm sure, at some point, but that's, Akroma has a keyword manner ability. And I just like it for the same reason that I like Tevish is just like that same kind of slow controlling style game, right? Some of these commanders are going to be rushing, and this one is a much slower kind of value commander, right? You blow up the board, you play it, you get a bunch of zombies, stuff like that. um and so like it kind of balances some of those more aggressive um commanders. And what you'll find is one of the things that I do in my war chest is I put the monarch in the middle, so the first one to deal damage gets the monarch. So like I very much incentivize these aggressive style, this aggressive play style, right? Because I want games to end. I don't want people to be dirtling, and it's really easy to do with the war chest because it's random. You're not coming with like a fine-tuned deck. You're drawing from the communal libraries, and you just have to put this plan together out of these random cards. And so I really incentivize aggression, and I do want something to counteract that aggression. And so for me, Nevin Earl is like is a definite like add. What I do worry is there's so much text in his text box that there's going to be some unintended consequences. Like we're going to find some situations where maybe the play style is not something we want. Because like
It's possible,
again, I
yeah.
want the games to end, and like if he's constantly blowing the board up over and over again, it's like okay, maybe
He is expensive. He's a 6-mana commander, so
Right.
he's not going to be cast too many times. So,
Okay, so the next one is Welleth, Sword of Steel, and this is from the precons, right?
yeah, Soul of Steel, actually.
Soul.
Yeah, this is the Boros precon. One red-white legendary creature, human warrior, is a 2/2 with trample, and when he attacks, draw a card for each aura and equipment attached to it. So here's your Boros commander for supporting equipment and auras of any sort, a Voltron style of play. And it's a pretty popular theme for Boros, is to get
Right. And it's cool in the budget box that we built, that I built originally. There was an aura theme, so because like Ural's in there, Ural, this is a way to kind of double dip, right? Because you already have Ural, you have the auras throughout the whole shared library, and now this commander just gets to benefit from all of that, right?
Yep.
And so that's kind of a cool.
Yeah, and that's the key, and that if you look at the archetypes actually for the Commander Legends limited environment, you've got overlap. So like blue and red are big spells, red and green are big creatures. So you've got this synergy in the colors where there's overlap, and if you can pull that into your battle box, it makes it it's more difficult to design, but you end up with being able to support a wider range of commanders because you've got these versatile cards that work in various strategies.
Right, and I love that overlap is part of what makes projects like the Commander War Chest really hum, right? Because getting something that can function in two ways is the kind of texture that you want to build into this thing. And that's why I love this project, because it's like it's such a puzzle on how do all these pieces balance and what's the best things to add and stuff like that. And I just went through, I got to tell you, I spent hours with my war chest recently, just trying to get up to date on all this, because like I haven't played it since COVID,
right?
And I'm like, okay, for this review, I kind of want to spend some time in it. So I started looking through it and just really trying to understand what the push and pulls happening and stuff there. And it's been a lot of fun. The other thing I had to do is a friend of mine asked me to build a budget copy of the one that the multi-deck, right? So it's like, I was like, sure, I'll do it because I want more people to experience this. But it was a task. I spent like 6 hours, and I'm going to put those videos up for anyone who really loves pain and suffering. But like I spent 6 hours going through my war chest and taking it from like whatever it was, $3,000 down to $250.
Wow.
And multiple libraries. So like which is like, whoa, like if you have like a war chest that's just a stack, that's easier to make a budget version of that, because you can like just fill the stack, or the stack can be as high or low as you want. But when you have multiple libraries, like you have to have X cards in each library.
Right,
So,
right.
and also you have to, make sure that the balance is there. So we ended up with 50 cards per library, and which is actually insane for a $250 budget.
That's a pretty,
Um,
yeah, that's a decent job. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm proud of the new budget version. Um, but yeah, in the old budget version, we did that with the auras and enchantments, and I feel like it's paid off. Like it's kind of cool. It's to see you're having such a good time with it, and it's like, yeah, that worked. That, and we can build on that.
Yeah, and a lot of auras are universally usable no matter what your
Right.
what commander you've chosen, right? You don't have to have an aura synergistic commander to use one.
Right, exactly. You could just, put like an aura that gives double strike on one of your big green creatures, and it's
Yep.
just like, oh, this is a big threat now.
Yep.
All right, Akroma, Vision of Ixidor.
Speaking of big threats,
Oh man, I like this card a lot.
yeah, every Akroma is good, really. 5 white for a 6/6 legendary angel with partner.
Mm-hmm.
And flying, first strike, vigilance, and trample. And she is a keyword soup commander here. At the beginning of each combat, not just yours, at the beginning of each combat, until end of turn, each other creature you control gets +1/+1 if it has flying, +1/+1 if it has first strike, and so on for double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, protection, reach, trample, vigilance, and partner. And
Wow.
yeah, this is a must kill on sight type of card, because it's, if you are messing around with various keywords in your battle box, you could end up with, this is a coat of arms style of effect, right? Where you're going to have +6/+6 to all your creatures.
I love it because of that, because like the fact that there's going to be random creatures with keywords, because a lot of what we're trying to do with the war chest is give more, like, pound for pound, right? You pick a creature to put in the war chest because it carries its weight and it has abilities and different things. And so I like that the payoff is immediate. So you play Akroma and then you go to your combat, right?
Yep, and it
and
happens.
then it's like boom, your team is buffed. And that's a very cool feature. I also love, and this is kind of cool, one of the great things that Commander Legends has given us is the partner mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, my partner setups were kind of lacking in my war chest, because you didn't have partners that covered all kinds of different styles. And some of the coverage of commanders, like, oh, I don't have a bank commander that does so the coverage was kind of off. But one of the things that I realized is so much the partner mechanic gives all these different combinations that you can do, and different just different coverage areas where I didn't have that coverage before. So Akroma is a great commander to add to your commander pool in the war chest, so that somebody can pair it up with something.
In fact, the idea has crossed my mind to make the entire commander set for the war chest be partners. And so you pick 2 of them and combine how you like. I'm considering that as a direction to go.
Okay, so tell me more about this. What do you mean a commander?
So all the commanders that you can choose from at the beginning, right, are partners.
Okay.
So, in your original where you could draft your commander, here you would be drafting 2 partners.
Right on. Yeah.
And that allows more flexibility in colors, more flexibility in abilities.
Yeah.
I'm considering going that route. I have to actually really look and see.
Now
if it's going to be
wanna,
too much of a head burster, but
you might want to compare notes, because I did that with this one. I basically added a bunch of partners that I felt like mixed well with the current iteration of the war chest. And so and the rule is if you get a partner, you can draft another partner, right? So like
Right.
you can just, mix and match, and Akroma just fits right into that theme. So yeah, really, really, really awesome. I could talk about that for a while. And another partner actually you have on the list here,
Yep.
Sakashima of 1,000 Faces.
Yeah.
And
3. Yep. Uh, in the mold of original Sakashima. 3 and a blue for a 3/1 legendary human rogue. You may have Sakashima of 1,000 Faces enter the battlefield as a copy of another creature you control, except it has Sakashima as of 1,000 Faces other abilities. And the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. Doesn't play so much into this unless you're copying another legend.
mm-hmm.
And it has partner. In case I don't know if people are aware, but all the monocolor legendary creatures in the set have partner, and none of the multicolor ones do.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a ton of options here for
Yeah.
partners. It's a clone, right? So if you've got a copy steal theme in your battle box, then this is a great option to have available to you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that I like about it is the fact that for me, I did add it, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully I'm not mistaken. I did add it to my war chest. And the reason why is just because it's a clone that goes in the command zone. So
Yeah.
cool to have a clone in the command zone. Also, it adds blue, a blue color identity. So, you could put something like little Kedis, Ember Claw Familiar, a little red aggressive commander with the clone, so you get like two different styles, and then like if you like double Kedis, right, then doesn't that trigger twice whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, deal
Yep.
that much damage to, right?
Yeah, each card's going to trigger. Yep.
So it would double trigger, which is neat. And like if you put a sword, of course, like you're gonna hit him with a 1/1, right? So it's like whatever. But if you put a sword on it or something, I could see funny situations happening with that, and so
And there are certain cards that are legendary because they have a tendency to break the game if they're not legendary.
yeah.
So you can get some interesting effects that way. I want to say Tromokratis, the Leviathan,
Mm-hmm.
the legendary Leviathan. It's not in the set, but that's if anything's going to block it, everything has to block it. And if you
Mm-hmm.
copy that and you attack the same person with both, they can't block either.
Oh wow.
So they both get through. And so that there's effects like that. We started running into them playing with Helm of the Host because that makes non-legendary copies of things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Another one of those options.
Yep.
So that's cool. Yeah, I love the commander aspect of this. Makes, one of the cool things is like people who open a handful of boxes of Commander Legends could easily build a war chest out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like you could easily build one, and you don't have to put like single copy. Like right now, like mine and yours is all singleton, right? To stay in the spirit of Commander. So everything is singleton there, but you can start with not singleton. If you have two boxes or whatever that you've opened, you could build one, not singleton, or if you go with the shared library that's just one library and not multiple colors, it's easy to find 100 cards in Commander Legends, 200 cards that you could just put in the middle and battle with all these different cards that were designed to play together in limited format.
Yep.
So this would be a cool exercise if you're looking for something to do with your friends, if you still have people you meet with and stuff. So the next one on the list, this is in no particular order, obviously. Obek Brute Chronologist.
This is one of the funniest shenanigans commanders I've ever seen. Obeka is 1 blue, black, red. So it's a Grixis commander. And I know there's a ton of Grixis fans out there.
Right.
Legendary creature, ogre, wizard, 3/4. Tap, the player whose turn it is may end the turn. And it's a May, but it's any player and it's repeatable. And there are so many effects, you sacrifice tokens at the end of turn or things like that. The politics that can get involved with this card are just fantastic. You don't need any synergy in your battle box. Make this available as one of your commanders. Hopefully somebody chooses it, goes Grixis, and fun happens, because this card is just going to mess with people.
It is going to mess with people. It's just going to be, someone's going to get, someone's going to like get some big spell cast on them on their turn, and you're going to just say, would you like to end the turn?
Yeah,
and they're going to say, yes, I would like to end the turn, instead of taking, a million damage. Or
something. You got to be careful though. You can't use it as a fog, because the attacking player, it's their turn, it's their option.
Right. But I'm saying something like a comet storm or something,
or if a counter spell is going to happen or something like, you just want it to stop.
Or things like, it's just rude. It's rude, but it's funny, and I laugh probably every time it happens. But like, somebody might cast a Fact or Fiction at the end of someone else's turn, right?
Yes.
And then you say, "Oh, would you like to end the turn? It's your turn right now," and then the person's like, "Oh, wait a second, no," it's like,
exactly,
yeah, got you, so that kind of stuff would be really fun and interesting, for sure. Funny commander. I did not include this one, but it does seem like just a wacky, fun commander.
Yeah, and this is not one that you have to build any support into your battle box for.
Right.
Just put it as a commander and let people have fun with it.
And people will pick it just to be that person.
Yep.
All right, Kediss Emberclaw Familiar. Hopefully, yes. I didn't pronounce that one wrong.
So you were talking about aggressive commanders, and it's good to have aggressive support here. Kediss is 1 and a red for a legendary elemental wizard, or lizard, not wizard. That's an L. Whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. And it has partner, and it's a 1/1. So, yeah, it's a little guy, but it's spreading the damage around. If you pair it with a big commander and just cast this before combat, swing in with your big commander, and you're going to be hitting the table for a lot.
Right.
Yeah, it's red. Red wants to be doing damage to, as many people, as many targets as possible, as quickly as possible, and this helps you get there.
For sure. And I thought about, I think I might jump ahead. I don't know if you have this on your list. I don't think you do. But I have it on my list, and this is just a cool like interaction that I think we should talk about. Kelith Sunmare Familiar, and I'm looking at an etched foil copy of it right here. It's a 1 and a white. It's a legendary creature horse. Whenever a commander you control attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it, and it has partner, and it's a 1/1. So like, I think this is a cool kind of commander to pair up with Kediss, because it's like you have this Boros team, right? You have Kediss, and then you have this, and they are both 2 mana. So like, turn 1, you play the Kelith. Turn 2, you play the Kediss. You hit for 2. You know what I mean? And then I'll turn
you hit
3,
everyone
you play the
for
Kediss.
2.
You hit everyone for 2, and then that kind of thing just starts to grow, right? You hit them again. Now everyone's getting hit for 3, and it's that kind of clock that I like. That like tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Somebody get a creature down because this commander is growing, and then by the time creatures get down, this thing's a 4/4. And I'm swinging at your 2/2 with my 4/4, and it's like, block, I guess, or don't block, and then everyone takes 4, and I like that kind of aggression. So yeah, I did add Kediss in to pair with Kediss, and I think that that's a cool combination. But also, like you said, a big commander, like one of the other ones you added here, and I'll jump ahead, is a Kodama of the Easttree. Right. This is a 6/6, and you pair this up, and this gives you a nice little Gruul deck, right? A red-green deck, and of course, when I'm talking about that, for me, it's a big deal, because in the multi-library war chest, you only get to draw from the colors you are, right? So like, when you draw from red-green, like this gives you red-green, but like you're not going to have access to black or white or this kind of stuff. And so yeah, let's talk about Kodama the Easttree. I said it was a 6/6.
It is a 6/6, 4 green. It's a legendary spirit with reach. This is going to cause problems. I think this card. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, okay, any permanent under your
Mhm.
control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield.
Yeah.
Now, I would like a ruling from you, given the battle box uses a land pack and the lands are not in your hand.
Right.
This works for lands. You play
It
a
does.
land, you can play another land from your hand. Are you going to amend that so that you can play another land from your land pack?
No, I've never changed that. And
Okay.
this changes a lot of things, right? Like something
Mm-hmm.
like um I don't have this card in the battle box because it's multicolor, but um if you look at man, what's the instant speed Simic card?
Oh,
Um
growth spiral.
Growth Spiral.
Yep.
That's another example. Put a land from your hand onto the battlefield, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chulane is another example. When you play a creature, put a land from your hand.
Right.
Now,
oh no, that just plays another land. It doesn't
plays
have to be
another
from
land.
your
Yeah.
hand.
So like this, the thing is, I like to lean on those things like explore. You may play an additional land this turn,
Gotcha.
right? So I go for that stuff. So stuff like this works in regular Commander for lands, but like in the war chest, it does not work for lands because you have them in your. I guess the zone they're in is set aside, right? They're not in exile. They're just they're
right.
set aside. But they are not in your hand. So I would stick to the rules there. But
Okay.
an interesting thing is I don't know how I don't remember how I did it with the budget war chest, but now with the multiple libraries, I actually put lands in the stacks. So like
Okay.
each library has lands that associate with that color. So like an example, I'm looking at the green ones right now. There's not a lot. There's like 80 cards in the green library, and like 4 of them are lands. So
Okay.
it's not a lot, but you have a Castle Garenbrig,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
national
Expected.
a Mosswort Bridge, right, which is a green land.
Right.
A Tranquil Thicket, just to like cycle, get a land in the graveyard if you want, and a Treetop Village.
Okay. Yeah.
So like there's 4 or 5 lands in each deck in each library. And they're just made for like instances like that, right? Like you can get a little value off your Kadama from the lands thing. But of course, non-land stuff, this may, like you said, cause big problems, right?
Yeah. So
Because
it just has to enter the battlefield, right? So if you pair this with a white commander and you're doing blink stuff,
right,
you can start dumping your hand. If you've got this in play with an Eldrazi Displacer, that could just get crazy.
Right?
Yeah. So yeah, this is an engine in itself.
It seems like one of the things you'll find with the war chest, actually, when you start playing, you start by drawing 3 cards, which everyone's like, oh, that's a little bit of cards. But you'll realize that a lot of the cards are high mana cost. So what ends up happening is you end up like discarding sometimes because it's just like, I have so many, just like so much fire in my hand. It's just like, I can't play this stuff fast enough. The bottleneck in the war chest is a lot of times mana. Mana is a lot of times a bottleneck. Now, I think in regular Commander, the bottleneck is truly mana as well, but there's ways to like mitigate that with ramp. There's less ramp in the war chest because we're trying to keep the game fair, and not every color has ramp as an identity. And so with this thing, I can see it getting way out of hand. And one of the cards that people complained about in my war chest is Lurking Predators, right?
Okay.
Because it's like you're always going to hit because there's not a lot of lands in each thing. So like, oftentimes you hit and it just gets out of control because everyone's playing a spell and it's like, oh, look it, I got a creature. Oh, look it. And so I feel like this could be like Lurking Predators. And if it is, it's probably going to get cut because, you don't want it just to be overwhelming. Like, oh, look at, I blink this stuff and all of a sudden I'm dropping these 2 8-drops or 7-drops or, and it's like, okay. So
it could get out of hand.
It could. It's a 6-mana commander though. So again, we got that. Remember that little Boros pair that I'm talking about going right underneath, or you have things like the green white aggressive token deck. That kind of stuff. We got that stuff going underneath the 6-mana commander. So hopefully it all works out. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
All right, moving on to Kanji Skywarden.
Yes, new version of Kanji. There's an old one out there that's kind of one of the classic bird tribal commanders. Kanji Skywarden is 3 white blue, legendary creature bird wizard. It's a 3/3 with flying and vigilance. And whenever it attacks, attacking creatures with flying get +2/+0 until end of turn. And whenever it blocks, blocking creatures with flying get +0/+2 until end of turn. This is a flying lord. Flying in white blue is a classic archetype. And if you've got that in your battle box, this is one you want available as a commander. It is one of the ideal flying lords in blue white.
Right. And you could look at, like, one of the things I considered with the war chest is adding things like wonder and brawn and filth and stuff like that, right? So like if I added Kanji to mine, I did not, but if I did, I would be looking to get wonder into the war chest somewhere.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that you can, like, someone drawing a wonder or whatever without Kanji, it's still useful because if it dies, all your creatures get flying. So like that's great, But then if you have Kanji, it's like it's awesome. And there's another reason where, like, I love having the multiple libraries because I could put it in blue. I could put a wonder in blue, and then like it's like going to happen way more often that the Kanji player gets the wonder because they're playing blue white out of blue white libraries than if they're playing with a single library.
Or you can put Archetype of Imagination.
That's another one. Yeah, that's another great. And like, if you do that, if you do the Kanji, you should add those 2 cards because that helps you to support, So yeah, I think it's definitely a cool card. Let's see. Lisa, is it Lisa?
I think it's Liesa is what they've said is how it's pronounced.
Shroud of Dusk. People are excited about this card, huh?
So yeah, this is the missing black-white angel from Innistrad that Avacyn killed early on. She is 2 white, black for a legendary angel, 5/5, flying and lifelink. And rather than pay 2 for each previous time you've cast this spell from the command zone in this game, pay 2 life that many times. And whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life.
Wow.
So this is if you have a life total shenanigans theme. Or if you have cards like Tainted Remedy or even Blood Bond combo kind of thing, Liesa is a great commander for that. Her ability to bypass commander tax and pay life for it instead. It's not optional, by the way, so you have to pay it. But yeah, if you've got a black-white life gain or life total shenanigans style theme, this is a great option here.
Yeah, I did not include it in mine, but I agree that there's a lot of cool, like, just cool things. I like it. It has that effect where it's like whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life. It's like there's like a modern card. It's a white, black, and 1, and it's every time they cast a spell, like a non-creature spell, they lose 2 and you gain 2.
Yes, Comball.
Comball, yeah, it's like a Comball effect, which I really like that kind of stuff, and I like it in the battle box. The war chest. I'm trying to rebrand that because people were thinking when I said battle box that it was a collection of decks that you
like
play
a gauntlet kind of thing.
Yeah, a gauntlet. It's not a gauntlet. It's a shared library situation. But I like that because again, it's a clock. I like having a clock. I want the game to end. I want people's life totals to go down. All right. The next one.
Yeah, Hans, if you want to, we can skip. This is a flavor win for me. This card.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll skip Hans, but Hans is awesome, and really just a fun card to add to your commander war chest.
Hans is a olive leaf being given to the players who've been around for a while that understand all the Easter eggs and the art and the name.
And that's the cool thing about the war chest is you can do whatever you want. You know, you can put uncards in the war chest if you want. You know, I did that for the budget one, the new budget one. I put some uncards in it. You know, just it's your thing. You know, you get to do whatever you want with it.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm not seeing the one you have here, but it looks like Gen.
Yeah, Gen Arcanum Weaver is red, white, black.
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mardu colors. Legendary human wizard. I noticed a theme here. There's a lot of wizards in this set.
Yeah.
It's a 2/3. 4 red, white, black, tap, sacrifice an enchantment, return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's got that black recursion kind of thing, but you don't see enchantment support in Mardu colors very often.
Right.
So this is kind of branching out a little bit, giving you the option if someone wants to play an enchantment theme. Now they've got a different color combination they can mess with.
Right. And it's cool, especially in yours, because you do have a lot of those auras and enchantments, because like we said, that's a way, like this is a way to get like extra space in your design of your war chest, right? You have like auras and equipments that is supposed to be like aggression and like kind of like the Boros commander we talked about, Ural, you know, but then this is a different angle, right? Like what if you were to put in some huge enchantment creatures in your war chest, you know? Then you have situations where you're sacrificing some little aura and then bringing back some huge creature, you know?
Or if you're doing something with either original Heliod or Daxos the Returned,
right?
They create enchantment creature tokens,
and
you can sacrifice those and then bring some big enchantment creature, you know, like Doomwake Giant or something like that out of
or other gods, you know, like indestructible gods and stuff. So like if you put in like Gen, I would definitely recommend finding some spots for gods, you know, enchantment gods and stuff like that. Just cool things where you can kind of diversify and texturize your war chest. Oh, this one's cool. Yurlok of the Scorch Thrash. This is such a cool callback, right?
Oh, it is. And again, this is kind of an Easter egg kind of thing where we've seen callbacks to, you know, with Nevenrol, callbacks to original cards, with Hans Eriksson, it's callback to flavor. This is a callback to a rule.
Right.
Where Yurlok is 1 black, red, green, so a Jund commander. Legendary Viashino Shaman with Vigilance is a 4/4. A player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life. That's mana burn.
That's mana burn.
6th edition, I think, was when that disappeared. Maybe 10th. I wasn't playing at the time when that was removed from the game, but it's mana burn on a commander here.
Right.
And 1 tap, each player adds black, red, green to their mana pool. So it's also political, where someone needs mana, you might be able to help them out and they can solve a different problem on the table, something like that.
Right.
But then everyone, you know, if they can't use it, you know, it's going to ding them for 3.
Right. If you do it on your turn, it's less likely that anyone's going to have that instant to use in Jund, especially in Commander, right? If they're doing a different color identity or something like that. And now, depending on the war chest situation, you know, depending on if you have a shared library, maybe they might have a Jund card they can use or whatever. But the point being is on your turn, it's going to be less likely they'll have an instant that can take advantage. So you get a ramp and they take 3, you know?
And the design here is good because the card has Vigilance. So you can attack with it and then use its ability
and then use it. Yeah, that's a good point. I saw the Vigilance, but then I didn't put the 2 and 2 together, that you can also attack. And all right, Bell Borka, Spectral Sergeant. Cool card.
This is a cool card. Let me bring it up here. It's a nice little take on Boros. 2 red, white for a legendary Spirit Soldier. It's a star 5. Note the converted mana cost of each card as it's put into exile. So a little bit of note taking here. Bell Borka Spectral Sergeant's power is equal to the greatest number noted for it this turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. So you're on your upkeep, you're at least going to be exiling one card, and it will be something.
Right.
And in the battle box, that's generally not going to be a land. So it'll have some power. But this is also great if you build a blink theme into your white white library, because those cards get exiled and come back. So it's going to look at the CMC of those.
Right. Or things like, if you have a Swords to Plowshare in your war chest, or like a Oblivion Ring, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Then you like remove some big threat, and then you're like, oh, by the way, I'm going to hit you for 7. Because.
In fact, I've heard him referred to as Oblivion Ring Lord, because it's going to look at those cards that are put into exile. So,
you might have convinced me to add this to my war chest. I didn't think about blinking or.
Yeah, you forget how often you actually use the exile zone.
Right. And the fact that, like, you're right, you're not going to hit a land typically in the war chest, right? And so, like, plus it messes with the top of library. Anything that messes with the library is in the war chest is just gold. You know what I mean? Because
absolutely.
Because whether it doesn't matter if you're playing with a shared library or you're playing with the multiple libraries. Because if you're playing multiple, then everyone has, like, it's stepping on everyone else's feet, right? Like, if I'm playing Dimir and someone else is playing like Jund, we're both stepping on each other in the black library. You know what I mean? So if someone puts something on top of the black library or gets it returned there, and then this guy is just like, oh, I'm going to exile that, just,
And I would assume
I don't know if you can't, because it has to be your library, right?
It is your library. Yeah.
Okay.
So it would have to be the red or the white one.
Right. But in your iteration of the war chest, it would work if someone puts something on top of library. It's all your library, so you flip it and remove it.
Yep.
Which is very cool.
So one thing I really enjoy about the original version of the war chest is the shared library, shared graveyard aspect of it, because it really, really makes you think. If you're going to counter that spell, it goes to the graveyard. There are a lot of effects in there to pull it back out. And, if you sacrifice something, someone else may steal it. I distinctly remember one game where the same Hornet Queen was cast 4 times by 4 different players because they kept pulling it out of the graveyard after it got killed. Somebody else, and the number of Hornets around was crazy.
They're like, it's my turn. It's my turn with the Hornet Queen.
Yeah. It was amazing. But so this is a very different take on Boros, and I really like it. I like them branching out in that color combination.
Yeah, that's a cool thought. Yeah, I think I like it. Okay, so I think that's the end of your picks for legendaries. I'll talk a little bit about some of the stuff that I did. It's in a similar vein. You'll see that I'm not going to talk about each of these uncommon ones that I added, but I did add a lot of uncommons. So the ones I added was Ragnarok. I added Ragnarok. I added Elsinore, or Elsior, the one that protects. It's the blue one that protects your commanders. And I added Kelith, like I told you about the horse, the kind of thinking there. I added Gilandra, which is it's a 3-mana 1/2 that you can tap to add a green. When you spend this mana to cast a spell with converted mana cost 6 or greater, draw a card.
Okay.
I added that one. I added Rebek, and Termod. So like a bunch of the uncommon ones. I just wanted to get a lot of density in the different styles and like the different interactions that you could do, right?
Right.
And so I added those. I'm not going to talk about each one and why I added it. I guess I could give like a quick sentence, like Rograth, son of Roga. I don't know how to pronounce it.
The little kobold.
It's a kobold. It's 0 mana, first strike, menace, trample, and it has partner. It's a 0/1. I think this is a great one to pair up with the angel.
I was just going to say, I want to pair this with a chroma.
With a chroma, right? Because it becomes like a three whatever, 3/4 or whatever, right?
4-5 actually, because partner counts as well.
Oh, partner, yeah, 4
Yeah.
5. So it's like
So
got menace and first strike.
speaking of, this is the first time in Legacy that the partner keyword actually has a game effect in
Right.
Legacy.
Yeah.
So,
So
otherwise, it's never mattered before, but now it does.
I like it because it's a way to add red to your commander identity in the one with multiple libraries. Also, it can pair well with some of these things. It can pair well with uh, Tevesh too, because you
Hmm.
pay it for 0 and then you sacrifice it, right? And you draw an extra card because the commander. So I like that. Um, Alcior warding familiar. I do like the protection aspect. It's a 2 mana, a 1 and a blue legendary creature bird flying. Spells your opponent casts that target one or more commanders you control cost 3 more to cast, and it's a 1/3 with partner.
3 more is a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so like seeing stuff, people don't want to waste their turn to like remove your commander. And I would like to pair this up with something like Tevesh, right? Because then it's like, well, now I have a Dimir deck that I'm playing, or a Dimir style, and my Tevesh is protected in a way. Like you can't, to Maelstrom Pulse it or whatever. Well, there's no Maelstrom Pulse, but like if you want
Hero's
to
Downfall or something
Hero
like that.
Downfall it's gonna be 6 mana,
Yeah.
which is pretty much your turn. I talked about the Kelith, the Gilandra, Caller of the Wirewood, is a 3 mana, the one that taps and makes a mana.
Mm-hmm.
That one is like you're casting spells that are 6 or higher. I just think that's a cool thing to pair up. There's a lot of over 6 mana cards, and so I could see this going with any number of these commanders. You could put it like you could do like a weird like green white with Rebecca, right? And start trying to play things from the artifact library, the colorless. There's a lot of really expensive artifacts. So then like you have the Rebecca protecting your artifacts, and this thing drawing you cards every time you cast something like some big Mere Battlesphere or whatever.
Yep.
And so like there's weird and cool things you can do with that.
Yeah, it's these little combinations that you keep bringing up, and we've talked about quite a bit, that are leaning me towards wanting to examine this all partner approach to
right
commander set.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Like, and I think like that I just went ham, as you can see with the partners. I'm like, I'm gonna add so many partners because I want these little interactions to kind of show themselves out while we're playing. Rebecca, Architect of Ascension, is a 4 mana white commander. It's 3 and a white. Artifacts you control have protection from each converted mana cost among artifacts you control. So basically, if you have a 3 mana artifact, your artifacts are protected from 3 mana. If you have a 4 mana, they're all protected from 3 and 4. So it's another partner commander that's really cool that I feel like you can pair with other things. And let me see if there's any. Oh, Termod, really neat, because I already have things. Termod is a 4 mana commander as well, and it's a black one, so 3 and a black legendary creature, zombie wizards. Whenever one or more card leave your graveyard, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token.
Mm-hmm.
One of the themes in the black library for the new war chest is Reanimator. So like
Okay.
there's a lot of effects that are bringing creatures back to like be reanimated. This you get an extra zombie for, but there's also things like Withered Wretch, which you can just eat a card in your library and then make a zombie. So like then now for every mana you use, you make 2/2s. Another one is like Scrabbling Claws, which is in the war chest, and it's like, oh, now when you with Scrabbling Claws you can make an army, which I like, and then it adds black identity to something else.
Right.
Like you can get like a you can go, some of them don't make sense, right? But you could put it with a chroma if you wanted to. I mean, you wouldn't, but you could get a black white deck if you wanted to play both of those. So those were the uncommon ones. I felt like those were good to add some texture. The rare ones, the rare partners that I added that we didn't talk about, is I added Krark the Thumbless. Krark the Thumbless is a red and a colorless. It's a legendary creature, goblin wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win, uh, the flip, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets. And that's also partner. It's a 2/2. Some people like the chaos, right? I would not
Right.
play with this because I don't want a chance of losing my spell.
Yeah, I'm not personally a fan of the coin flipping mechanics, but
Right.
I know people love them. So yeah,
I could see it with like a preordain or something, right? Like you cast preordain like 3 times and see if you can get lucky and spin it. Like, because you only have to hit twice, so like odds are, I don't know. But I could tell that there's some people who are going to want to cast big spells with this and
yes,
just it's going to actually double sometimes. It's to be dumb.
yep.
So I did that one. A lot of what I build for is story, right? Like I want to build in big stories that will happen in the war chest when you're playing.
Yep.
I want something big to happen. I want something fun to happen, something unique. And so like I try to give people the opportunity to create those stories with the different cards that are added. Sakashima, we talked about that, right? That one we added. Talked about Kadama. Oh, Kamal was one that you didn't have that I wanted to add at the beginning. Okay, so it's an 8-mana green partner. It's 6 and 2 green, legendary creature, human druid. At the beginning of combat on your turn, creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until the end of turn. So it's just like always going to be an overrun at the beginning of your combat. It's the same thing where I talked about with a chroma and you get that little overrun effect. This is doing it as well. And then you can also make your lands into 1/1 elemental creatures with vigilance, indestructible, and haste for 2 mana. So nice little commander. I wanted some big stuff, to partner with these little ones, and so that you can, do that kind of stuff. Some of the other legendaries that I included that were not partners were Arumi of the Dead Tide.
Around
Arumi, yeah, Arumi of the Dead Tide. It's a black and a blue, and it says legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard. Exile. You tap it and you exile cards from your graveyard equal to the number of opponents you have. So if you have 3 opponents, you exile 3 cards, and then target creature in your graveyard gets Encore or Encore. The Encore cost is equal to the mana cost. Encore is when you bring the creature back. You bring 3 back, or
it's 1 per opponent.
Yeah, you bring back 1 per opponent, or and then you attack or whatever. Because I think those tokens have haste.
They have haste, and they have to attack each opponent.
Right.
So, in fact, we played over webcam. My play group, we did a little sealed of Commander Legends on Wednesday, and I won our game. I was playing a blue-red pirate themed deck.
Yeah.
And there's a pirate with Encore that when it attacks, another creature attacking the same player gains flying, and it flies. And I had a couple of pirates that were loaded up with equipment. I Encore, and I had the coercive recruiter, I think it is, the red pirate that steals things when another pirate comes into play. It steals creatures. And I Encored the pirate, stole 2 of their creatures, attacked them with them, and gave them flying, and won the game that way. And
wow,
yeah, just it's these little interactions in here. Encore is a deceptively interesting mechanic, and Around Me, I think, is, if you've got enter the battlefield effects in blue and black, be watching for that.
I like it, like you said. It's like, it reminds me of Myriad, which I really liked Myriad for the war chest, because again, it's that clock, it's a way to like, multiply your threat. And Encore's like that, but even like better, because like the creatures are not down costed like they were with Myriad, right? You're actually playing stuff out of your graveyard, which I think is really cool. I want to see that in action. Another legend, Emoti, Celebrant of Bounty. It's a Simic commander, 3 green blue, legendary creature, Naga Druid. It has Cascade, so you're cascading off a 5-drop, which is cool. And then spells you cast with converted mana cost 6 or greater have Cascade. And Cascade in the war chest is great.
Yes.
Okay, because you're spinning the wheel off the top of it, whether it's one library or one of the multiple libraries. It's just fun because you don't know what you're going to hit. It's so random. And I want more Cascade in the war chest. So this, just a cool implementation of a Simic card that isn't like play another land, draw a billion cards,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. Be careful about how much Cascade you put in, because it can snowball quickly and
Right.
get a little out of control.
And I think when you're dealing with 6 mana, I think at 5 mana, when you're in those areas, like I think snowball's okay. Like this is okay
Yeah,
to get
that's fair.
things out a
You're
little bit
getting
out
up
of
there.
control. You know, you're up there. Like let's end the game. Like come on, let's get another one going. The other, I have let's see, I have 2 more legends. Zara Renegade Recruiter. There's another 5 mana commander. 3 blue red. Legendary creature human pirate flying. Okay, so it's a flying 4/3. Whenever Zara Renegade Recruiter attacks, look at defending player's hand. You may put a creature card from it onto the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking. That player or a planeswalker they control, return that creature to the owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. I love it. I love it because there are so many goodies in people's hands.
Oh yeah.
During this war chest, you know, especially if you're swinging at the green creature. Well, again, depending on how your war chest is, if you swing at anyone with the shared library, just one shared library, yeah, everyone's going to have goodies. But like in the one where you have multiple libraries represented by each color, usually the one with the green, the one with all the green cards, or the one with all the colorless cards, they probably have like an Eldrazi or like a big green creature.
Yep.
So like swinging at them with this just makes it like it's just really nice, and it's another one of those fun things.
And if you manage to find a player who, because this is a 5-drop, if you go after a player and they happen to have an 8-drop in their hand, they're obviously not casting that for a couple of turns, so you can use it against them a couple of times before they can cast it and get it out of their hand.
You know, there's gonna
maybe get rid of it. But
there's going to be 2 things that are going to happen. One is going to be the hilarious time they swing at someone with 6 cards and they have no creature.
Yes.
That's
you're still getting in for 4, but
and that will be like a funny moment where they're just like, got nothing. And it's like, oh, wow, that was a whiff. And then there's going to be the time where you get their Terracodon.
Oh, God.
And you blow up their lands. Okay. And that's going to be mean. And it's going to be like, I don't know if that card should be in here. But, you know, in the one moment where you're swinging with Zara, you pick the right person who has the Terracodon. You just get to win, right? That's just that's the luck of the draw.
And like you said, you want games to end, right? So
yeah, I want them to end. I want there to be big stories, and I don't want there to be feel bads. But you know, this is turn 6 when this thing is swinging, so you know. The other one I picked is because of one of my favorite mechanics in the war chest, and that's Monarch. I picked Jared, Cathalion True Hero, True Heir. Sorry, he's a hero though. He is. It's a Naya commander, just Naya cost, red, green, white. Legendary human warrior. When Jared enters the battlefield, target opponent becomes the monarch. You can't become the monarch this turn. So it's a way to switch the monarch, which I have found super cool. Because like sometimes someone gets the monarch and they're just like, nah, man, like you're touching me, you know, and they're just like blowing your stuff up, and like it's hard to get it back sometimes. And so I like that Jared's like, nope, I'm going to put it over here and then I'm going to take it from them later. Also, if damage would be dealt to Jared, well, you're the monarch, prevent that damage and put that many counters on it. It's just going to get huge. I think it's going to be cool. So, you know, it's any damage, right? If damage would be dealt.
Yeah.
So like if you blasphemous act, right? Then this thing just gets 13 counters, right?
Gets massive. Yep.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so if you're monarch and you blasphemous act, boom, this thing is like now a 16/16. And then you swing at someone, and if they block, it's just going to get more counters, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so like I feel like that's kind of cool interaction. It deals with Monarch, which I love. So I included Jared in
Yes.
my war chest.
Apparently, Jared is a character from a comic book series in the late 90s
Oh, really?
and was also known for his hair,
His beautiful hair.
his beautiful flowing locks at the time. So I guess the original artist of the comic books saw this card and was very pleased that they kept the aesthetic of the character the same.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. All right, let's look at the white cards. Now we're moving on. So getting into white, I think we're making good time. I had a lot of legendaries, but like very few cards made it into my actual color
Okay.
libraries.
Well,
So
we can knock off 5 of these all at once because if you notice, I think I have the court in
the
every
courts,
color. The
yeah.
courts. You were just talking about the monarch and the court cycle. They are one. There's one enchantment in each color, and just randomly, I will choose red to talk about.
Okay.
The Court of Ire is three red. Court of Ire enters the battlefield. You may become you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, Court of Ire deals 2 damage to any target. If you are the monarch, it deals 7 damage to that player or permanent instead.
Woo.
Yeah, they are all splashy effects. The green one in particular, I think, is the most broken. That puts a land into play on your upkeep. If you're the monarch, it's a land or a creature from your hand into play. That one actually may not work in the war chest because it's putting lands from your hand.
But it's a creature as well?
If you are the monarch, it can put a creature into play.
Oh wow. Yeah, so you don't get that little upside, right? Because like all these courts have a little upside. Like the white one is like make a 1/1, right?
Yep.
But if you're the monarch, make a 4/4 angel, right?
Yeah.
And the red one's like deal 2 damage. But then if you're the monarch, deal 7.
Yeah.
And I guess the green one is like put a land or put a land in a creature or a creature.
Land or creature, yeah. And it's any creature. It doesn't have to be a green creature. So
Right.
those are Eldrazi, right? Yeah, that card is insane.
Yeah, the green
that whole cycle is good. They all give you the monarch. You know, they introduce the monarch into the game if it's not already there, and they all have effects that you can work into your battle box somehow.
Yeah, I like that too. I like the ability to take the monarch back without combat, especially when it starts in the beginning. Like it starts in the middle, and then everyone fights for it, and then someone gets it, and then it's really great to have something that someone can just say, no, I'm going to take it back. So these courts I'm a big fan of. Of course, like some of them are your mileage may vary. Like the green one, like we said, that one's not going to give you the upside, so I would just not include it because it's like I want the whole thing to be there.
Right.
But I totally see where some people might just say, yeah, you know, it's good enough to get a creature if you're the monarch, you know.
Yeah, and I could see the blue one because it mills. I could see the blue one not working in the separate library version, but it would be fantastic in the normal one.
Right. Right. Some library. Of that stuff you have to like watch out that you don't mill the whole library. Like the new budget one is like 50 cards per library. So like
that one, I wouldn't put this in that.
Yeah, like that one I had to like watch out for how much draw I had in the thing because I'm like, I just don't want them to draw the whole library, you know?
Yeah, if you end up with 4 players who all are sharing a color, right?
Yeah, gonna. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. That's a good one. We knocked out the courts.
Yep.
Akroma's Will. Tell me about this card.
This I think is my favorite card in the set.
Woo!
Yeah. This is your finisher in white. 3 and a white for an instant. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast this spell, you may choose both. And I'll mention this is part of a cycle that I really like. One of them is creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, and double strike until end of turn. That's pretty big, but there's more. The second bullet, creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors until end of turn. If you have your commander, you get both for 4 mana.
Wow.
This is your finisher. If you are playing Akroma and you've got the keywords, this is giving six keywords
Yeah.
your creatures, they're all going to get at least +6/+6.
And they're going to be protection from all colors. So they're
Yeah.
just going to
So
be
they're
able to
getting
swing through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is my favorite card in the entire set.
I think it's really great. I like it with the chroma. It's tough if you draw it without a board.
Yes. Yeah.
But again, like, you know, depending on how you design the war chest, right? I find that like a lot of times you have a board. A lot of times people have a big, like a board that's building. And because remember, the war chest is random. So like you might draw a wrath, you might not draw a wrath. And a lot of times what I find is the board gets unstable. Like there people just start building and building, and there's like big boards happening until a wrath shows up. And if you were to draw this card in that moment where it's like kind of unstable, everyone has stuff, you just win, because then you're like, okay, all my stuff, you know. And that's where I like the little you know, Rograth or Rograk,
Yep.
you know, is because then it's like, oh, I'm going to play this for 0, and now my Achroma's, you know, will does all of it, you know.
Yep.
It kind of turns that on, which is cool.
Yeah. The and these aren't optimized EDH decks, right? It's likely that when you try something like this, none of your opponents are going to have an answer.
Right.
So yeah, this is, I think, will be more successful in this environment than it would be in a you know, a medium to high power EDH pod.
Right, like you said, you're dealing. The thing I love about this format is you draw the cards off the top, and that's what you have to put your plan together, you know. And it's like you're not for sure getting a counter spell, or you're not for sure getting a removal spell. You might just have, you know, enablers, or you might have like a mix of stuff. So yeah, good addition. Here's another one, Archon of Coronation.
Yes. Big flying Archon. 4 white for a creature Archon. It's a 5/5 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. As long as you're the monarch, damage doesn't cause you to lose life. Now, we talked about this on our podcast as well, this card. There's some interesting rules interactions here. You still take the damage. The damage happens.
Oh, wow.
You just don't lose life from it.
Yeah.
If your opponent is hitting you with a lifelink creature, they will gain the life because the damage happened. You just don't lose life from it.
What about infect?
That's not damage, right? It deals damage in the form of, it's a replacement effect.
Yeah,
so you're not losing life. You'll still get the poison counter.
Wow.
So
interesting.
Yeah. So there's some rules tweaks here. This is not a fog, right? It doesn't prevent the damage. It just prevents you losing life from the damage. So
everything that triggers on damage, they're gonna
commander damage will still happen.
Oh, wow.
Because it's dealing the damage.
Interesting.
So I like this card for a number of reasons, but don't feel like it's, you know, a flying fog, because it's not.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I did add it to my war chest as well. So I added Court of Grace, and I added the Archon. I really like the Archon because it's that way to kind of like, it's the kind of like, one of the things that white does is it stalls the game by attacks, right? Like Ghostly Prison is a good example of that kind of effect. I don't like to have too many of those in the war chest because it slows games down. But this is one of those things that doesn't slow the game down so much because you have a 5/5 flyer, right? So first of all, it's a creature which they can kill, a little bit easier to deal with than an enchantment. But also, you're going to end the game because you're going to start attacking people, right? You have a clock, which I like, a clock that kind of interrupts the game. Very cool.
So in a normal EDH environment, I'm putting this in my Firesong and Sunspeaker deck because I've got a lot of things like Earthquake that deal damage to everything. It's not going to deal the damage to me. And with Firesong and Sunspeaker out, I'll still gain the life from all the damage that was dealt top of it. So yeah, there's some weird effects with this card.
That's cool. All right, so you have Keeper of the Accord. That makes me question. That makes me curious. Why do you like Keeper of the Accord?
It's a balancing effect for white, right? White. One of White's problems, especially if you're doing a weenie or a token strategy, is if a board white happens, it can be hard for White to catch up
Yeah.
because White doesn't draw cards well. So you might be low on resources and trying to get back up. Keeper of the Cord, 3 and a white for a 3/4 human soldier. At the beginning of each opponent's instep, if that player controls more creatures than you, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of each opponent's instep, if that player controls more lands than you, you may search your library. So this part won't kick in. Right?
Yeah.
Second clause here. It's more, I want to keep up on the board.
I see.
For this card.
That's
but in
cool.
a normal EDH environment, this is a great card for White.
Yeah, it's amazing in White. Like it's one of the probably the best card in the set for White. Just the fact that you can ramp in a normal EDH environment to get those planes and keep on par with the green decks. Making the tokens is very interesting. I didn't really think too much. Like to me, the Keeper of the Cord, like the strongest ability is the ramp ability. So I didn't consider it for the war chest because of that. Also, aesthetically, I don't like things that aesthetically break the war chest. And
Fair. Yep.
That's just it's a weird, like, I'm so picky about that kind of thing, you know. I'm just like, well, if you can't search, then you know what's the point, you know what I mean?
No, I hear you.
So cool. Slash the Ranks, this is the, what is it, the Tragic Arrogance?
Sort of. It's a different take on a board wipe. It's 3 white sorcery. Destroy all creatures and planeswalkers except for commanders. So yeah, it's just especially if you're running a Voltron type commander, I like this one for that. So it's another option for a board wipe.
Right. And I like that cards like this are usually inexpensive. So like, you know, when you have something like, you know, Tragic Arrogance, which is also inexpensive, and then you have something like this that does like a impression of it, typically this is just going to be a bulk rare, you know.
Yeah, we're recording this on day of release for the set, and it's showing it's 36 cents.
Yeah, 36 cents.
Yeah.
If you don't want to put like a bunch of money in the war chest and you're like, I want to build a war chest, but I don't have all the, you know, all the money, you can skip Wrath of God, which is like a $5 card, and put in a Slash the Ranks, right? Yep. And it's going to create interesting situations where people, you know, they have their commander still, and you're like, oh no, what are we going to do to deal with that? You know, or it's that whole question across the table, right? Well, I could take care of everything but the commander. Can someone else take care of the commander? Because I could get rid of the rest of the board. You know, and then people will be like, oh yeah, I'll kill the commander if you kill the rest of the board, you know. Okay, well then here's the Slash the Ranks, you know. Yep. And then you get to keep your thing, which is cool. One thing about designing war chests is you're always looking for first of all, cards that are affordable, and then interestingly, just things that balance the board and balance the game. And it's like when I found this format, this whole format of battle boxes and war chests, whatever, the war chest is my thing, but the battle box, I built many battle boxes. Like I built one like Brian DeMars, which was an uncommon, low rare power battle box. And so uncommon, common, low rare power. I built that. I built a zoo battle box, which is really fun. It's what I like to call damage per second, was like the idea of the zoo battle box. It's like you get 5 Shocklands and an Ancient Ziggurat. That's your land set. And it's you have like Wild Nacatl, Tarmogoyf, Lightning Bolt, and it's a 1v1 thing, right? So like I've designed a lot of these, right? And every single one I've designed, I've enjoyed playing quite a bit. And one of the things that you're looking for is these kind of cards that do a specific thing, and cards like Slash Ranks could be in that there was like a Phyrexian card that I used in the uncommon one. It was like neg each creature for how many land types you have. So and Phyrexian Caress or something like that. And it's just like, because you have basic lands, you can decide when to play them to make that more powerful or less powerful, and like all that kind of stuff. And so like it's all about turning knobs. That's all. I don't want to talk too deeply on the design, but like it is about turning knobs. And that's why I think that people should not turn their nose up at things like Slash the Ranks, which may not see a lot of play in like traditional Commander, but like in the war chest could be a really key.
You might be surprised, actually. One of the things we espouse on our podcast is not necessarily playing the staple card, right?
Uh-huh.
If you're playing white, don't just put Wrath of God in your deck if you need a board wipe. Look
Right.
at what your deck is doing and choose your effects appropriately.
Right.
And if you are playing a Voltron commander, or if you're playing a cheap commander that you want out early and you don't want the card to get outclassed by bigger creatures,
Uh-huh.
this would be a good board wipe because it's going to kill the other creatures and not your commanders, which may be smaller and cheaper.
Right.
So we were talking earlier in this set with the red white cheap commander, aggressive commanders. This would be a great board wipe in that style of deck because you want your stuff around.
Yeah, for sure. So before we move on to blue, I'll just say that the two cards that I added from white were Archon of Coronation and Court of Grace. Those were the two that I added. And I did what I'll do for this recording is I will, when I put this on the website, I'm going to put what I removed for those cards. So I won't talk about it here, but anybody who's like building this war chest or like wants to know, okay, what cards were removed, I'll put that there along with the latest list. So, all right, we're in blue. Let's talk about blue. Body of Knowledge is the first card you have on your list here.
Yeah. 3 blue for an avatar. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size. And whenever it's dealt damage, you draw that many cards. Card draw engine and a creature here.
That's cool.
Particularly
big,
good if
right?
It can be big. Yeah. I mean, it's a star. So
Yeah.
however many cards you've got, that's what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And with the effects you were describing earlier, where sometimes you can load up on those high CMC cards in your hand, you play this as a 5-drop, it might be a 6/6. And
right.
then, especially if you've got pingers in your deck
mm-hmm.
or in your battle box, then you can hit it, draw a card.
Right. Just ping it down, or like I said, Blasphemous Act, right? Just like,
oh yeah,
you'll
probably kill it, but you'll gain those cards.
Yeah, you'll draw a bunch.
Yeah.
Right on. All right, so we talked about the court,
Yep.
the blue court, Sekishima's Will, another one of these kind of like this what do you call it, cycle of if you control a commander, you can do two things.
Yeah, I think this is the only other one I talk about here. So with this one, 3 and a blue for sorcery. Your two options are target opponent chooses a creature they control, you gain control of it, or choose a creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn. Now, the interesting thing to note here is on spells that have multiple effects and you get to choose multiples, they're resolved in the order on the card.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, your opponent may have 3 creatures and gives you the worst one, but then you can, if your commander's in play, you can make it a copy of your best non-legendary thing. So it is a little insurance around the effect of giving the opponent the choice of which creature to give you. Also, this is not until end of turn. You get control of that creature permanently.
Mm-hmm.
So,
like the reason I'm quiet is because I'm thinking about this card. It's interesting. I did not add it. To my war chest. Because they choose, right? Target opponent chooses a creature they control and you gain control of it. And then it says, but I didn't really pay attention to creatures you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of that creature.
So if you've got a big non-legendary thing,
right,
you can, all your other creatures become copies of it.
Right.
And
Or
you've
if you
already
have
stolen a creature from somebody. Or if you have, so one effect that's kind of interesting is if you have just a legendary creature and you say your commander, right?
Right.
And your opponent has one very troublesome creature that you can't get rid of for whatever reason.
Right.
You hit them, they have to give it to you because it's their only creature. You make it a copy of your commander and it'll die from the legend rule.
Right.
So you can kill it indirectly that way. I mean, that it's a corner case, but it's something you can do with the card.
The other thing I was thinking is if you have Sakashima, which we've both added to our war chest, then you can copy a legendary.
Absolutely. Yep. And
right?
that's why this is Sakashima's will, right?
Yeah.
They work great together.
Yeah, they work really good. And I already have a card in what I would call the white deck, which is Mirrorweave, right?
Okay.
Which it's a hybrid card, and the way that I do hybrid is I just align it with the library that I think is most fitting. So Mirrorweave for me was like white has a lot of tokens, so you want Mirrorweave to copy the tokens, but like this also is a Mirrorweave essentially.
Yeah.
And if Mirrorweave by itself is okay, maybe this is okay. I might be convinced. This may be the second card you convinced me to think about adding. That's very cool.
It's very versatile. Don't be put off by the your opponent getting the choice because you can work around that.
Yeah, and then or it's just a Mirrorweave, which is like that's fine too. Like I have that just in my deck, not in my deck, but in my war chest, All right, so the next one you have in blue here is Sphinx of the Second Sun.
Yeah, when Jake, our editor, has a give me all the upkeeps deck, and this is going right into that. Sphinx of the Second Sun is 6 blue for a Sphinx, 6/6 flyer. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you get an additional beginning phase after this phase, which you got to really read that. So you're done with combat, you go to your post-combat main phase. If this is in play, after that main phase, you will have another untap, upkeep, and draw step. So that gets inserted in between your post-combat main phase and the end step.
Right.
So it's basically untapping everything that you have. You get, if you have upkeep effects, you'll get those again, and then you get to draw another card. So
that's insane. It's like
it is. Yeah.
It's like a free 6/6 essentially that draws a card.
Yeah, because you're going to untap at the end of the turn.
Right. So if you had 8 mana out, you play this, you attack, and then you untap, and then you draw a card.
Yeah, all your creatures untap, so you can swing out without worrying about crackbacks.
Right. I did not add this. I feel like it would make people mad. It's one of those cards that it's like take an extra turn essentially. And
it's probably closer to Prophet of Kruphix, kind of.
Yeah, a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking there was a way to break it, but reading it now, I don't think you can break it. Because it's at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, and you don't have multiple post-combat main phases. So you only get one of these again,
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a cool card, and I think it could definitely find a place in my war chest, but I did not add it. Interesting, but
yeah, it's to me, this is we talked about the white finisher being a Chroma's Will. This is the blue finisher to me.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. The last one you have here is Wrong Turn.
I love cards like this.
I love this card. Yes. I definitely made it into my war chest 100%.
Good. Because you want to talk about creating stories. This card is going to create stories.
All right. So it's a blue card, 2 and a blue, instant. Target opponent gains control of target creature.
And I want to emphasize instant here.
Yes. So if they are attacking you, say they're attacking you with a Blightsteel, you could say, nope, that Blightsteel belongs to this person now. Yeah. And it removes it from combat because you have changed possession of it. So I just think that's super cool, and it's going to create stories. It is going to create stories, which I love.
I'll also emphasize, and I missed this in the podcast in my podcast when we talked about it. It's not until end of turn.
No, they just get it.
Yeah, they just get it. You can do this in the beginning of combat step before attackers are declared to swap a creature around. There's all sorts of times you can do this.
Yeah, it's just great. It's great. I like it a lot too. All right, that's the end of your blue section. There were 3 blue cards that I added to my war chest that were not in your blue, and I will go over them quickly. Hull Breacher. This is a mean card. It's a blue card, 2 and a blue, creature, merfolk pirate, flash. If an opponent would draw a card, except for the first one they draw during their draw step, instead you create a treasure token. So there have been so many war chest games where Consecrated Sphinx just hits the board and it gets dumb. Okay.
Yep.
What I like to see is some counterplay to that. I'm going to add Hull Breacher and I'm going to add Alms Collector to the war chest to balance that out a little bit, to punish the extra draw. Also, the Monarch mechanic. Okay, because of the Monarch mechanic, this is just going to get extra value because you know you're going to make a token basically on every Monarch turn, right? Which is cool. So I like it. I don't feel like it's too oppressive. It gives some ramp. It's a fragile creature. I like it. Like it a lot. And it shuts down all the draw. And you don't need that much draw in the war chest because, like I said, you're already like drawing a bunch. So it doesn't hurt anybody that bad, I don't think. The last 2 cards in blue that I added were Cascade cards, because I love what could happen with Cascade. I'm very interested to see how these play out. Sakashima's Protege. It's a blue creature, 4 and 2 blue, creature shapeshifter, flash. It has flash, which means you can play it at instant speed. It's only a 3/1, so like really what you're playing is you're really trying to get a cascade off this. You know, you're trying to get something really great off of it. So you cascade, and then you can have this enter the battlefield as any permanent that entered the battlefield this turn. Okay, so basically when you cascade, you might hit something great, and then you can make a copy of it with the Protege, but also you could miss, right? You could miss and hit a spell, and then maybe like it's 6 mana. So like if you didn't have another permanent come into play, this is a 3/1 that you played a spell off of, essentially.
The primary use case I see for this card is playing it on the end step of someone else's turn after they play something big. Because if you miss on the cascade, it can come in as a copy of the thing they made. Because it doesn't have to be that it came onto the battlefield under your control.
Right. It doesn't have to be under your control. That's true. You can copy someone else's.
Yeah.
So there's that one. And then Forceful Denial. I had to nerf the blue deck, the blue library, so many times. I had to nerf it and take out these counter spells out because the people were just drawing mono blue and then countering everything, and it was obnoxious. But this is a 5 mana counter spell, which I like. I like to see those 5 mana counter spells, and this cascades. So I'm really excited about the cascade there, and I think it's really. I want to see stuff happen. I want to see someone get their thing countered and then something awesome come into play.
Yeah. In a non-battle box, normal EDH context, my son has a Yidris Cascade deck, and he is just drooling over some of the new toys he's gotten out of this set for it.
So many great Cascade cards. So very cool. I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We just finished up blue, and then we're going to come back and we'll do the rest of the stuff. So stay tuned. All right, we are back. We're going to jump into green. No.
Black. We're back in black.
We are back in black. All right. So let's look at black. We have another court.
Which another court.
I'm interested in the black card. I didn't really pay much attention to it, so let's take a look. So like the other ones, it's 2 and 2 black, so 2 and then 2 of the color. It's an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 3 life. I already like it. They discard a card.
Unless they discard a card.
Oh, unless they discard.
So they can discard to avoid the life loss.
Okay, I already don't like it. If you're the monarch, each opponent loses 6 life unless they discard 2 cards. The reason, okay, so like I could definitely see this in a war chest. Because of, first of all, the monarch thing is very cool. So like getting the monarch alone really just cycles the card, right? Because like you get the monarch, you end the turn, you draw a card.
Yep.
And so it's already a cycle. So I think, okay, cycling a card is great. The only thing is like, because in my war chest, black is basically reanimator. Like I would not want to put this on the table if someone's playing black, because then they're just going to be like, yeah, okay, I'll discard 2 cards and then I'll reanimate them, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a risk here, definitely.
Right. And so like I feel like the discard is not as, like, if it was like lose 3 life or lose 2 life and discard, or, you know, the loss of life, I like that a lot, because it's like, you know, the clock. But I don't know. It's an interesting card for sure.
In the original shared library, shared graveyard scenario, this is much better, because
that's true.
It's that shared graveyard, and it's like, okay, you're going to discard something, but you might be giving it to someone else,
right?
Or you're getting them to discard things that you might be able to get. So,
right, in the shared graveyard, imagine the new black blue commander, right? That thing is just busted, because like, you know, they're discarding cards, and then you have this the Arami of the Dead Tide. You like exile something and give it encore, you know, exile some cards and then give something encore that they discarded. So I think you're right that in the shared library you definitely want something like this, because if you share your library in your graveyard. Now, one of the departures I made when I made the change to the colored libraries is that you still share a library, but it's basically 6 libraries, 6 different colors. But you don't share graveyards. You just play with your separate graveyard.
Right.
You could always say, well, you play with the same graveyard. You could do either one. But again, that you have to pick one, right? Because how these cards impact the game is basically where you draw the line.
Yeah. And if I was playing with separate graveyards, this isn't as appealing.
Right. All right. This one almost made it into my war chest. It got cut at the final moment. Plague Reaver. It's 2 and a black. It's a creature beast, and it's a 6/5 creature. So
for 3 mana,
you get a big beater for 3 mana. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifice each other creature you control. So you play this, and then at the end of your turn, you have to sacrifice all the other creatures you control. You can discard 2 cards to sacrifice Plague Reaver, choose target opponent, return Plague Reaver to the battlefield under that player's control at the beginning of their next upkeep. So basically, you either sacrifice all your creatures, or you can discard 2 cards and sacrifice this, pick an opponent, and then on their upkeep, they get it.
Right.
Which means they have to.
Yep.
Now, tell me about it. Tell me about why you put it on the list.
So it's versatile, right? This could be the only creature you play, in which case you've got a 3 mana 6/5 in black, right? With a drawback of sorts, right? But if, you know, depending on what else you're doing, this might not be a drawback at all. It's not like the zombie dinosaur that we got in standard recently. That's a 3 mana, 7/6, I think, but you have to discard a card in your upkeep. Here, this drawback is more manageable, because if you don't play any other creatures, you've got this big beater out quickly.
Right.
And in black, that's unusual. The other thing is you're basically discard 2 cards to wipe someone else's board.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be game winning in some aspects.
Right.
So
I
and
like
then
that.
if you've got if you've got a reanimation theme, you might want this discard outlet.
Right. Those are the two reasons why it almost made it into the war chest for me is like, okay, it's first of all early aggression. I guess there's three reasons. Early aggression, which I like, um, you know, a board wipe in a conditional board wipe, and then the discard outlet. Probably the reason it didn't make it is just the artwork, to be honest.
It is a little weird.
Like, it just doesn't look so cool.
Yeah.
But like now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, man, I should have put that in maybe.
The other thing about it is, okay, you discard 2 cards, you sack it, somebody else gets it. Now they have the option. So now you've got this thing that's traveling around the board. And this is the kind of stuff I love tossing into a multiplayer game and see what happens.
Right. I like it. I'm with you. I also like passing it around, Okay, let's keep going. Profane Transfusion is the next thing we have here.
Yeah, so there's another sort of cycle in this set that are 9 mana silly spells, as my editor referred to them. This is the black one. It's 6 black for a sorcery. 2 target players exchange life totals. You create an XX colorless horror artifact creature token where X is the difference between those players' life totals.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I have an EDH deck separately that is all about life total shenanigans. This is going straight into that. This is the kind of play I love, where it's political because you're choosing 2 target players, and they can be you, they can be other people, whatever you want it to be. And you just don't see this sort of thing coming, right? I love this sort of effect.
Yeah, I have looked for cards in black that do some interesting things, that give black more than just Reanimator, but some kind of edge in the color palette. What I've found is, like, traditionally with the multicolor libraries, I found that blue has been very strong.
Okay.
And so what I've been trying to do is temper blue in a way, first of all, by nerfing it into the freaking ground. And even then it's still really good, and also to find things that other colors can do that really keep blue in check. And one of the things in red is like copying spells. So like one of the things strength that blue has is to do big spells, Then what red can do is be like, no, I'm going to copy that, or I'm going to copy your counter spell and counter it with the counter copy. And what I've been doing in black is finding cards like this, which is like, if blue has that, like what'll happen is sometimes the arch, if someone's really strong in the blue side of things, it'll be like an arch enemy kind of style thing where everyone's kind of playing against them. They will end up countering like a spell that somebody plays against them. And if you catch them with that mana tapped, you could Profane Transfusion and like switch the game, change the way the shifting. And like one of the other spells that I have in black that does similar things is like Worst Fears. It's a big mythic. It says you control target player's next turn, right? So it's like a Mindslaver. Another one is Covetous Urge, which is target. It's a 4 mana. It's actually a hybrid card. It's a 4 mana blue-black card. But again, because I'm trying to like temper blue, I put it only in black in the black library.
Okay.
And so its target player reveals their hand, choose a non-land card from that player's graveyard or hand, exile it, and you may cast it as long as it remains exiled. And you can spend mana as though. So that's another one, like this weird like thing that black is doing to kind of keep blue in check, but also it's good against other colors too. It's not only a blue thing, but it's the kind of thing that can switch the game where blue doesn't get a lock on things,
Right. I also see this as a possible counter in case a life gain strategy gets a little out of control.
Right. If someone has some big life linker, or and the other thing is that's cool is like the fact that red has that dynamic of I'm going to copy something. You put Profane Transfusion on the stack, and then they copy it,
Yeah. Oh,
and then
geez.
they get, you know what I mean? It's this
And theirs
kind of,
resolves first, and then you got to figure out what you're going to do. And yeah,
right. It's so like I love that kind of thing, and I think that that's a great ad. So I'm a big fan of this ad. Um, all right, so it looks like you have another black card, Rock Raksha.
Rakshasa Debaser.
All right.
Yeah, 4 black black for a creature cat demon. I like it for the creature types alone. It's a 6/6. And whenever it attacks, put target creature card from defending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So that's cool in itself. But it also has Encore for 6 black black.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of those ones where, okay, I've used it, somebody killed it, or maybe it just never got to attack. Now I'm going to Encore it. And if it's that point in the game, maybe there's still 3 opponents left. I'm getting 3 copies of it. When they attack, I'm going to get something out of each of their graveyards.
Right.
And exactly the kind of thing that I love to see happen in the battle box. Right. It's
right.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, that when the way that the shared graveyard works is that the same way that the shared library works, in that it's your library and your graveyard, and so it's also Eric's library and his graveyard. So like the shared graveyard is everybody's graveyard. So you basically get to take 3 creatures from the shared graveyard.
Yep.
Which is really cool. It kind of breaks a card like that because it's supposed to be out of your opponent's graveyard. And so like when I played in mine, which I did add it to my war chest because it's that good, I did add it, but it's less good in mine than it is in Eric's, right? Because Eric gets to get any creature out of the graveyard.
Yep.
And like, let's say that the green deck, the interesting thing is like, let's say that the person playing in mine, the person playing green is going to have those green creatures in their graveyard. So I'm going to get one of those. But in Eric's, everyone playing the green creatures is just all going to be there. So he could get 3 green creatures, which are typically bigger, more beefy,
And I'll say again, this is not until end of turn. So
right.
you get to keep that thing. Yep.
It reminds me of the Drana, the Last Blood Chief, which is from your graveyard. That's one that came out in Zendikar. So interesting. I have the Zendikar one in there, and I added this one. I don't know what's going to stay and what's not, but I like that. So that was it you had for black, but I think I had I had one other black card that I included in my war chest. So the 3 black cards that I included were Rakshasa Debaser, Profane Transfusion, and the third one is Necrotic Hex. Each player sacrifices 6 creatures. You create 6 tapped 2/2 zombie tokens for 7 mana, 6 and a black. It's a sorcery. Just a kind of like a wrath that gives you tokens.
This is a better version of Hex,
right?
Where Hex is destroy 6 target creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Here you don't need 6 creatures on the battlefield.
Right, and it's each player, so it could be, if each player has more than 6, right, then you're destroying all those creatures. It is you as well, so like you also have to sacrifice your creatures, but you do get the zombie tokens in the end. So I added that. I thought that'd be a cool addition. All right, red. I have quite a few red cards, and it looks like you do too.
Yeah, there's some red at first. Red for the legendaries didn't really speak to me, but some of the non-legendary cards I really like in red.
Yeah, my list was actually bigger than what I ended up adding. So like, obviously there was a lot of red cards, but the first one you have is Aurora Phoenix.
Yeah, 4 red for a creature Phoenix. This is one of the more expensive Phoenixes out there. It's a 5/3 flyer with Cascade.
Mm-hmm.
So, got our Cascade mechanic here that you talked about earlier. Whenever you cast a spell with Cascade, return Aurora Phoenix from your graveyard to your hand. So that's how this Phoenix recurs, is you cast something with Cascade. So this is something you want to put in there if you are putting in some amount of Cascade support. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense. But a recurring 5/3 flyer is a good thing.
Right, like by itself, getting a Cascade and having a 5/3 flyer left over seems pretty reasonable. Like this is the kind of thing I like about the war chest is like, okay, this is a reasonable card in general.
Mhm.
But if you have other Cascade synergies, or if you have a commander, like if you have Maelstrom Wanderer, like as your commander, then somebody who plays Maelstrom Wanderer and hits, Phoenix is just gonna. This is the kind of story thing I'm talking about, where they're like, I'll play my commander, and then I think it's 7, right? Maelstrom Wanderer 7.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you hit Phoenix, and then you hit something else, and you're like, whoa, and then Phoenix dies, and now that Phoenix is in play, like, well, I mean, in play by like it's dead, so now you can play Wanderer again, and then get Phoenix back, and then,
Yep.
It's just a cool thing that I think as you draw those Cascade cards, right, it could amp up. So I did not include it in mine. It was close. But again, I don't have a very strong Cascade theme. I just wanted to add a few cards that
Right.
did some cool stuff. So I ended up not adding it. But my red actually was one of the biggest libraries. I had to cut it down by like 8 cards because the red was so good. And like I feel like my red is so solid that I just couldn't find a place for this. All right, the next one you have here is Court of Ire.
Yeah, we and this is the one I used as an example for the
we
courts earlier.
We talked about that.
Yep, definitely one you want if you want a heavy damage theme in red.
Explosion of Riches. I don't even know what this card does.
All right, 5 and a red for a sorcery. Draw a card. Then each other player may draw a card.
Okay.
Whenever a card is drawn this way, so that includes the one you drew,
Mm-hmm.
Explosion of Riches deals 5 damage to target opponent chosen at random from among your opponents. So this is going to do between 5 and 20 damage to the table, spread randomly amongst your opponents in chunks of 5.
Okay.
And
so
people might get cards too.
So they might be able to say, I don't want a card.
Right. In which case, you're drawing a card and you're still doing 5 damage to something.
Okay.
Huh. So yeah, it's each person is going to look at it like, okay, and you do this in turn sequence order. So you go to the person. If the first 2 say no, I don't want a card, the third person is like, I want a card, and I've got a decent shot of not getting hit here.
Right.
So there's just a little bit of game theory going on.
Yeah. I think it's cool, especially if you have Vial Smasher in your in your war chest as a commander, right? And especially if you have the multiple library situation like me, then like Vial Smasher plus this in the red library seems like it's going to happen more times than not. And this is just really, really cool there. I like it. It's interesting. And I do, like you said, like the game theory about it.
Yeah. Everyone's got to make their own. And it's not like some of the tempt cards that have been printed in Commander, right? Where it's kind of an obvious choice to make here. It's not obvious here. Someone with a high life total is just going to take the card, right?
Right, which may just deal the 5 to the person without the high life total.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's random. So,
and like once the first person takes the card, I think everyone takes the card, right?
I don't know, because you're increasing the chance of being hit with every card that's drawn. So
yeah, but think about
it. It's going to be determined by your life total, right? If I'm at 17 life and I'm the 4th player and everyone else is taking a card, I'm kind of scared too.
Right? Yeah, but like your odds at that point are pretty low, are pretty high to get hit. So just like take the card.
Yeah, you might do that. Yeah. But if the first 2 don't, maybe I don't. I don't. It's going to be very situationally dependent.
I'm like always taking the card. I don't care what life total I'm at.
You never pay for Rhystic Study either, do you?
I never pay for Rhystic Study. Yeah, I'm always taking the card because it might hit me, but it might hit you too. So like draw a card, deal you 5 damage. Yeah, sure.
The one thing I like about this though is it's never going to hit yourself.
Right, when you cast it.
Yep.
I like maybe I'm my red's so tight it's hard to get this in.
Yeah,
but this
that's
such
the thing,
cool card.
Fitting it in, right? And that's one thing I do like about the shared library is it's much easier to fit cards in.
Right. You could just you don't want to, with the shared library, you don't want to be like way more, red cards than the others, but you can definitely go over by some amount.
Yeah.
You can do that with the other libraries too, but I'm not. The way that I am is I have to set boundaries for myself, or else my libraries are going to be enormous.
Yes.
All right, Frenzied Saddle Brute. Tell
This
me
is
about this card.
another, yeah, this is I love this style of card. This is like the Monarch mechanic in some
Mhm.
ways. I have referred to this as the red Edric.
Okay.
4 and a red for an orc warrior. It's a 5/4. It has
Mhm.
haste. All creatures can attack your opponents and planeswalkers your opponents control as though those creatures had haste. It encourages your opponents to attack each other versus attacking you, because that big 7 mana green creature they just cast has haste if it goes after somebody else.
Right.
But not after you. So it deflects stuff away from you.
That's
And
cool for
yeah.
a turn, because then
For a
when
turn,
they,
yeah.
yeah, I like that. I actually, I like this better than the last couple, and I think, man, like, it reminds me of Goad. You
Very
know what I mean?
much, yes.
And I love the Goad mechanic in the war chest, because again, I'm about that damage. Like, I want to see, you know, I want to see people get hit.
Yeah, and this is like Edric in that it's encouraging your opponents to attack your other opponents.
Right. Right on. All right, this next one's cool. Wheel of Misfortune.
Speaking of game theory, all right, so we know Wheel of Fortune, the reserve list
Right.
card, 2 and a red, discard your hand, everyone discards, draw 7.
Uh-huh.
This is the new twist on it. It's again 2 and a red for a sorcery. Each player secretly chooses a number 0 or greater.
Uh-huh.
Then all players reveal those numbers simultaneously and determine the highest and lowest numbers revealed this way. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chose that number.
Mm-hmm.
And each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand and draw 7 cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say those are the 4 numbers picked.
Mm-hmm.
The person who chose 4 is going to take 4 damage. And everyone who didn't choose 1 discards their hand and draws 7 cards. So what do you choose? If you like your hand, you choose 0, right? Because you don't want to discard your hand.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't like your hand, how high do you go? How much damage? Because you're going to draw the cards if you're not the lowest.
Right.
So this is the kind of thing, I want to cast it and see what people do, because it's going to be interesting.
So wait a second. So I put it in my box. I did, but like, I don't even know what it does.
Right.
All right. So it's okay. So if you pick 0,
you're guaranteed to be the lowest, because that's the bottom. So that means you're not going to be discarding your hand or drawing 7 cards. And you're not going, even if everyone chooses 0, you're taking no damage. Right.
So
this is a no op if you choose 0.
If you choose 0, you just opt out.
Yep.
It does nothing.
Does nothing.
All right.
Any other number is at risk for something.
All right. So if you do 1, what happens?
You're probably not taking damage, because someone's probably going to choose higher, but you might be the lowest if everyone chooses higher than 1. So you might not get to wheel your hand. You don't know. Any number higher than 0, you don't know what's going to happen. Other than you are at risk of taking that much damage.
And then, so say the person who has the highest number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they take damage and then wheel, or do they?
It's only the person who chose the lowest, and anyone who tied with them, they don't wheel. Everyone else does.
Okay. Each player secretly chooses a number 0 or greater. Then all players reveal those numbers simultaneously and determine the highest and lowest. Numbers revealed this way. Highest and lowest numbers revealed this way. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chose that number. Each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand and draws 7.
So if the numbers chosen were 2, 3, 5, 5,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the 2 players who chose 5 take 5 damage.
Right.
The player who chose 2 does nothing. Everyone else wheels.
Wow. I like it.
It is absolutely game theory. What do you choose? How much are you willing to risk? How much are you willing to guarantee that you're going to wheel your hand or not?
Uh-huh.
And how much damage are you going to risk taking to do that?
All right. So if I have a hand that I don't like, and how much life am I at?
22.
All right. The number I pick is depending on what's on the board. If there's like enough to kill me, basically I pick the number that I'm not going to die to the board.
Basically, yeah. You're how much life are you willing to risk to be able to wheel your hand is what this comes down to.
It's funny because I thought, oh well, there's always probably the same answer, but it's actually not, because everybody is in a different position. You can probably figure out where people are going to sit, oh, this person just
and that's why I want this card in my battle box, because I want to see the thought process everyone goes through when this card is on the stack.
That'll be interesting. Of course you can't tutor in the war chest, but what I mean is like this person just got something put back in their hand, or this person or somebody cyclonic rift and then then they play this. It's like, well, we know what this person's holding, and they don't want to discard that probably.
Right. So there'll be a lot of zeros chosen, right? And do you go 1?
Yeah, you just go 1, right?
Yeah.
At that point.
In theory, yeah. So, but I don't know. Yeah. That's why I love this card. This is an amazing design. Somebody who studied game theory in college designed this card, because this is exactly I could see this being a graduate level game theory problem,
right,
in a college course.
Okay, so that's the end of your list for red. For red, I had quite a bit that I added. So we had so I only, from the ones that we talked about, I've only added Wheel of Misfortune. So my other red ads are Emberwild Captain. It's 3 in a red, creature Djinn pirate. It's a 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And whenever an opponent attacks you while you're the monarch, Emberwild Captain deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards in their hand. So it's kind of like a way to stop people from attacking you if you're the monarch, which is weird because they're going to want to attack you.
Yeah, they're going to pay for it. Yep.
So they're going to pay with damage, which I like a lot. It's kind of like a way to get that damage in. The other one is Port Razor. It's a 3 and 2 red. It's an orc pirate, 4/4. When Port Razor deals combat damage to a player, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there is an additional combat phase. Port Razor can't attack a player it has already attacked this turn. So you get additional combat phase the first time. The second time, if you can hit another player, you get another combat phase. So you basically, if there's no blockers, then you can go hit everyone once, with your whole team.
Right.
Which there always was blockers, but it's an interesting card. I like this. I like the multiple combat step cards in the war chest.
Yeah, I do also want to call out Hellkite Courser. The dragon, 4 red for a 6/5 flying dragon.
Right.
When it enters, you can put a commander you own from the command zone onto the battlefield. It gets haste, and then it goes back to the command zone of the end step.
Right.
It's kind of like dash for your commander.
Right. I think that's really cool. That one almost made it in my chest. It was in I have a folder full of I first took all the cards and I said, okay, I'll probably put all these in. And then as I started to make cuts and try to fit them, and I looked at the commanders and I was like, okay, what do we got here? That one, I just didn't see a commander that I'm like, oh, I definitely want to smack someone with this, Like a good example is like if I had Nicol Bolas, the Elder Dragon, as a commander.
Hmm.
Nicol Bolas with that card is just
Oh, that'd be
bonkers,
crazy.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're just like, oh, discard your hand, I hit you for 7, you know.
Yeah.
So that was like, not that you have to go max out on Nicol Bolas, but it almost made it. It just didn't. Again, red being super tight.
Yep.
So okay, so we talked about that guy, Port Razor. Jessica's Will, another one of the will cards. So you choose one or both, and here's the options. It's 3 mana sorcery, so 2 in a red, which is one of the lower costed will cards. Add red mana for each card in target opponent's hand. So somebody has 7 cards in your hand, you get 7 red mana. And then exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. So again, if you use the red library and you have 7 mana, then things are looking pretty good. You're probably going to get to play 1 or 2 of those cards, which is neat. So I'm interested in that.
If you're playing multicolors, would you be able to exile off of multiple different libraries?
No, so like the way it usually works is you resolve the spell on
a library.
On a library, but if you have a draw effect, you can draw from multiple libraries, right?
Okay.
So
because draws are done individually.
Yeah. So like that's how we usually do it. There are some weird things where it's like you're drawing in the middle of the resolution of a spell and then doing something, and it's like sometimes gets weird, but most of the time it's pretty clean. You can draw from any library, but if you're doing something in like multiples, then you should do it from the same library.
Okay.
The other one was Soulfire Eruption, one of those big expensive
our silly spell in red.
Right. So 6 and 3 red. Choose any number of target creatures, planeswalkers, and or players. So first of all, you just choose any number. So basically, everything that's not me. So like your planeswalkers, all your creatures, right? And then Soulfire Eruption deals. Oh no! For each one of them, exile the top card of your library. Then Soulfire Eruption deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to that permanent or player. You may play the exiled spells until the end of turn.
End of your next turn.
Yeah, end of your next turn. So basically, it's like draw a bunch. Then like maybe kill a bunch of stuff. And I just think about this in a multi, like if you have this in a 3-color commander identity, you could just be like off 3 decks, You're just like reveal this, reveal this, reveal this, reveal, and it doesn't say it's any number. So like, if there's a token, deployment going on over there where there's 10 tokens, then you basically draw 10 from that,
Yeah.
And it just seems like a really cool card in the war chest, and one of those things that gets copied, like if somebody blinks a or like weird things like we have another card in the war chest. What is it called? It's a blue-black card, and it's in blue. I put it in blue. It's a hybrid. It's let me see if I can find it. It's basically play a spell out of somebody's graveyard.
So yeah, I've seen that one.
It's let me go to my blue section. Man, this box is getting big. Let's see. Still cycling. Here we go. Memory Plunder. You may play target instant or sorcery in an opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost. So this is the kind of thing I expect to get memory plundered.
Yeah.
And so imagine that, like at the end of your turn, memory plunder is gonna kill all this stuff and then draw a bajillion. It's just like it's so cool. I think it's neat.
Yeah, and you get it's a little bit of red chaos here where you don't know how much damage you're doing to each individual thing.
Right. It's not really like a board wipe you can count on, right?
Right.
But like you say, in the war chest, a lot of times you're not going to hit a land, like 99% of the time, So you are going to deal some amount of damage, and it mostly slants to like 3 and higher, because you don't have a lot of 2 mana cards in there.
Right.
So, all right, I think that's it for red for me. And then we go on to green.
Yeah, we'll cover the big guy first.
The Big
The
Daddy.
Big Daddy, the splashy card in the set that I actually cracked a foil one of these in our sealed pool, and
Did you?
my son was very happy because Yidris is the deck he's foiling out. Apex Devastator, 8 green for 10/10 creature Chimera Hydra. Four words of rule text. Cascade, 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 Cascade.
Whew.
And it's a 10 drop. You're going to be casting anything off of this.
Right.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what comes off of this card being played.
This might be the most exciting card for the war chest.
Oh, I can only yeah.
Out of the whole set, like it definitely made it into mine, obviously. I mean,
yeah.
This is one of those things. First of all, you want big, beefy creatures in green because of the effects, like, that you're trying to, reveal things off the top and play them and stuff like that. And one of the cool things is when you get a green red deck and you have like sneak attack, you want to like sneak attack something in. Now,
this you have to cast though.
Right. No, what I was going to say is like, you don't get the cascade if you sneak attack it. Right. But the thing is that like you do get an attack with a 10/10. So like sometimes that's enough. Like sometimes it's just like, and the cascade cards are typically weaker, right? So typically you get a cascade card that does a cascade thing, but it's like a 3/1 or like a 4/4 or something. And so like it's so cool to have something that like maybe if you don't cast it and you just reveal it off the top from some like lurking predators or something, you still get a 10/10, right? So like the first thing is the stats are still like match the casting costs. And then like if you actually get to cast this thing,
then it's crazy. Yeah.
It's freaking fireworks, It's going to be awesome,
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of this card, and I think it's going to be great in any war chest, right?
Yeah.
Just super cool.
Even one that has, even if you have no other cascade support.
Right.
Yeah.
This is just like a really big, just awesome green card. So, all right. Well, we peaked. So
it's all downhill from here.
It is.
Maybe. Biowaste Blob is my next green card. 2 green for a 0/0 creature ooze.
Okay.
Catch, right? Oozes you control get +1/+1.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's a 4-mana 1/1 to start. But at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a commander, create a token that's a copy of Biowaste Blob.
Okay.
If someone plays this and they have their commander in play, either kill their commander or kill this quickly.
Right.
It will. This grows geometrically.
Right. It's kind of like Scoot Swarm, right?
Very much, yes.
Because like you make 2 the first time, the second time you make 4.
Yep. Then you're making 8, and each of them are bumping all of them by 1.
Right. So
you're going to have 8 8/8s at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. That gets insane.
Even if you have no other oozes, this card is crazy.
And this is where I like that commander that's 0 mana, right? The Ragroth or whatever.
Yep.
Because then like on turn 4, you could play this and then play Ragroth and be like, okay, pass the turn, make 2, And then it's like, well, they have to kill both of them now. Because like
because you have one. Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's just going to start replicating. So, or like this would be funny if you had this and then that blue card that says get another, another whatever, like beginning step, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like
you get another upkeep. So
you get another upkeep and make another. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It did not make it into my war chest, but I could see it in there. I could definitely see it being one of those things, Court of Bounty we talked about, and this is one of those things where again with the land, you're not going to put a land in play from your hand, but one thing you could do is if it's your war chest, you could just say, hey, lands in your land set count as being in your hand as well as being set aside.
Yeah, you absolutely could. I think that gives a bit of an advantage to green.
Right. I do too. I think that you don't want more of that, but if you did, you could.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. What else do you have here? Dawnglade Regent. another Monarch card.
Yep, 5 green green for an 8/8 elk. I think this is the biggest elk they've ever printed. When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch, and as long as you're the Monarch, permanents you control have hexproof.
Hmm.
So this is a good way to keep the Monarch, I think.
Right.
Unless
And
you have a weakness to flyers, and then you could lose the Monarch to flying.
They just poke you with a flyer, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Rip. I
But
like it
yeah.
a lot because again, it's a 7 mana 8/8, which means again, big creature. You know that those whole effects where I'm talking about, you reveal something or you sneak attack. By itself, it's a good like chunky 8/8. Not bad to have an 8/8, but it also does this Monarch thing, which I love, and then the hexproof thing, which is like an asceticism effect, essentially. So yeah, it did make it into my war chest. Actually, only 2 green cards, three green cards made it into the war chest from Commander Legends for me, and that was the Dawnglade Regent, the Apex Devastator, and then one that you didn't have on your list here is the Natural Reclamation, which is the 5 mana naturalize that has Cascade.
Oh, okay.
So when I started to make the libraries, so like I said, okay, there's white, there's black, there's red. One thing I wanted them to do is they have a theme, right? Or they like thematically they tie in with the commanders that are in the commander pool. So you have commanders, they kind of feed off of these libraries. But another thing that the libraries do is they have a like enforcement level or something like what I want that library to do for the table. And so like an example is the green deals with the enchantments and artifacts.
Okay.
So like I want the naturalizes and that kind of stuff to be aligned in the green. The black has like spot removal. So like I want people to know like, oh, okay, well if I'm going to look for a spot removal and I'm in blue, black, green, then probably the place to look for that is in black.
Gotcha. Okay.
Blue counter, they counter things, sometimes bounce things. White is board wipe. If I'm looking for a board wipe, it's probably in white, and red is the clock. Red is the tick, 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 putting the pressure on, keeping the game moving. And so like things like that reinforce those identities. I always like to add. So, all right, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. We are at the artifacts. Okay, so let me click over here on artifacts and see what we got. Looks like Horizon Stone.
I wish they had kept the guess that Scryfall had guessed correctly on the name on this. They thought it was Infinity Stone. This had been previewed in a different language, and so they weren't sure what the translation would be. But it's a 5 mana artifact. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes colorless instead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a Kruphix effect.
Right. I think it's cool, right? Because there's sometimes where you just don't have, like, you don't have a use for all your mana, And so you would just add it to your pool, right? And it just stays in there as colorless, right?
Yep.
And it just stays there.
Yeah, it just stays there. You don't lose it. And in fact, Kruphix is referenced in the flavor text on the card.
Right.
Very useful for things like that 9 mana red spell, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can then use that mana the next turn to play those spells. So
right.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for cards in the colorless pile. I feel like the colorless is probably one of the most difficult piles or the difficult deck to like exist. And the reason why is because the identity of it is torn in different areas. It's like pulling it toward, you want equipment in there, right? Because people expect equipment. You want mana rocks in there because people expect mana rocks. You want big dumb artifacts in there because people expect big dumb artifacts. And then you want creatures like Eldrazi and like Mere Battlesphere. And so like it's hard to come up with like because like maybe somebody's drawing for an Eldrazi and they keep drawing swords, it's like
Right.
so that's one of the colorless stack is really hard to balance. So it's interesting to find like things like Horizon Stone. It didn't make it into mine, but I could see it being in there as something being tested.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let's see what else we got. Commander's Plate.
Yeah, speaking
Equipped
of
creature
equipment.
gets +3/+3. It's 1 mana for the Commander's Plate and has protection from each color that's not in your commander's color identity. It's 3 to equip to commander and 5 to equip to other creatures. It's just a great equipment, I think.
Yeah. This would be, if you're putting Wylith, the Precon Boros commander
Mhm.
we talked about earlier, if you're putting that in your commander pool, you want this, I think, in your colorless deck.
Right. I think this can serve
Perfectly.
many different commanders, and like
Mhm.
it just makes like support for Wylith like much better.
Yep.
So that's cool. Let's see. The next one, Jeweled Lotus.
Yeah,
Let's
the
save that.
elephant in the room.
Let's save that one for last. Let's save that one
Okay,
for the,
that's
the
fair.
last
That's fair.
artifact, rather. Okay, so then we have Phyrexian Triniform. Yeah,
So this is we're talking about big colorless creatures, right?
right.
This is a 9 mana artifact creature golem. It's a 9/9, which actually in itself for an artifact creature is good.
It's pretty
Normally
good.
you don't get the power toughness equal to the CMC. When it dies, you create 3/3/3 colorless golem artifact creature tokens.
Right.
Okay, so sort of like um, uh, the worm
Wormcoil Engine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it splits up when it dies. However, it also has Encore. Now the catch here is Encore is 12,
Yes.
which means that's 1 more mana than you have lands in your mana pool. So you need some sort of ramp to do the 12.
Right.
But the Encore is 12. So if there's still 3 players left in the 3 opponents left in the game, you're going to get 3 copies of this. They have to attack.
Mm-hmm.
And because of Encore, they get sacrificed at the end of turn. You will be left with 9 3/3 golems in play after you Encore this. So this is a way to literally explode your board in 1 turn.
I love it for those reasons. It did not make it into my war chest because of the 12 Encore.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, in my version of the war chest now, we do a utility land. So you can have 12, right? You get the 10, you get 5 snow lands, 5 tri lands, 1 command zone. What is it?
Command tower.
Command tower.
Yep.
So that's 11, and then your utility land. So I guess I do have 12.
Could do it.
I could do it. I wanted the basic land set to support the Triniform, and that's why I was like,
okay.
I don't think
I can see that definitely.
But you're right. Like with ramp, you could definitely do it in your you could definitely.
It's an achievement unlocked kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it would not be hard in yours, and also you still get the 9 mana form, right? So
yep.
Okay, so yeah, I think I might put it in mine. I didn't, but I'm thinking about it. All right, so let's talk about, before we go to lands, we'll get out of the way of this Lotus card. Would you put this in your war chest?
I'd consider it. I wouldn't buy one to put it in it. Let's put it that way. If I open one, I'd try it.
Yeah.
My opinion on this card is going to end up being perceived similar to Vampiric Tutor, as far as price and power level and things like that.
Yeah.
If you have I would not put this into a battle box that had a way to a theme of recurring artifacts, because I think it gives too much advantage to that style of deck.
Yeah.
If you don't, it's a bump one time for the player who gets it. That's about it.
Right. I would not put it in mine.
Okay.
But you have to keep in mind you're working from the budget version and I'm
Yes.
working
Yeah.
from the version that's fully powered, right?
Yeah.
And like I feel like what I've been finding, and that's the same thing, is like when I built the new budget version, I was like, oh, this card wouldn't make it in my war chest, but like it totally would work in this budget version because that budget version is like more like it's like the power level is turned down a notch, right? And in this thing, like I could just imagine, like my current war chest has like 50 commanders or something like that. And like so many of those commanders, when you get that early, also don't forget mine has a artifact
Yeah.
deck,
And I would not put this into that. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you're drawing from the artifact deck, and if you happen to draw this, like, and then you're just gonna,
Yeah.
it's gonna make the game unfun for other people.
If you were
Now, when
running
you
Urza or Emery or Duretti,
right,
I would not put this in there.
right, but like in yours, it's different, right? Because like you
Mhm.
said, you have a shared library, and it's just like luck of the draw, who draws it, and it's like, oh,
Yeah,
I drew it,
it may be completely useless actually by
right?
the time you
Somebody
draw it.
draws it,
So
right? Yeah. So interesting. All right. So we have two lands that you had picked. Oh, for the color list, let me see if there was anything that I added that. Oh yeah. I did add two cards. So the ones that made it in for me was Commander Plate. That made it in. Maelstrom Colossus, which is a common. It's an 8 mana, 7/7 with Cascade.
yep.
I'm in the market for that.
I
A big
I want to see what this card does in Pauper, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. This is a great, but yeah, I'm in the market for that in the war chest. It's a big 7/7 that cascades. Sign me up. Uh, for the same reason, Ingenuity Engine. It's a 7 mana artifact that cascades. So you get like a 6 mana spell out of it. And then it says, well, not a 6, you get a whatever you cascade into. I mean, it could be a 2 mana spell, who knows? But it says you pay 1 and tap it to sacrifice an artifact. Return target artifact you control to its owner's hand. So everyone starts with a jeweled amulet in my deck, in my war chest.
Okay.
So like I could see this, you can rebuy this with a jeweled amulet. So sacrifice your jeweled amulet, get this back to your hand, and then do it again. If that's what you're in the market to do. I could see other things happening with like a Layla or other like Mere Battlesphere sacrificing Thopters or whatever that thing makes. So that is what made it in for my color list was Commander Plate, Maelstrom Colossus, in Ingenuity Engine. Okay, and then the two lands, Guildless Commons, which is it says Guildless Common enter the battlefield tapped. When Guildless Common enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand, and then you can add 2 of any color.
So it's a colorless bounce land.
Yeah, it's like a Karoo land that adds 2. I think it's cool because like it gets you out of that the space where you have a limited amount of mana, right? You can kind of break that ceiling because like you go, oh, I'm gonna play this and then bounce my command tower and then play this again, and then now I have an extra 2 mana than anyone else.
Yeah, and if you put this in the colorless deck, you could get away with putting the new Golem with on.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool, right? It's something that gives you like it's a little bit of ramp, and also I like the idea that you can bounce it back, right? Because like one of the things bounce a land because I added Morag from the last set.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Which is a landfall guy, but the thing is Morag is like 6 mana. So by the time you're doing it, right, it's actually 6 mana. By the time you're getting landfall, you only have a few more landfalls before this guy really becomes obsolete, right?
Yep.
So like having something that bounces a land and then give you another landfall trigger. I typically try to stay away from landfall because of that problem, but
that's fair. Yep.
All right, so we have War Room as the last land and the last card we're going to talk about probably. It's just it's a colorless land, and then you can tap it for a colorless or pay 3 and then pay life equal to the number of colors in your commander's color identity and draw a card.
Very useful card, particularly if you're playing, Boros or Mono White or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. This is going to be one of your better ways to draw a card.
Right. I think it's cool. I think it's very cool if if you're it makes a mana, so who cares, right?
Yeah.
Like if you draw it off the colorless stack and you're just like, oh, I'll just play it as my land. And then if you really need to dig, you can dig at the cost of some life, which I think is great. Overall, I think Commander Legends is pretty great set for the war chest.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of toys in this. Also, there's a lot of reprints, and we didn't even get into where the price is coming down, right?
Oh man.
Because of the reprints. So cards, like Staff of Domination has been a pretty expensive card,
Right.
and now it's a lot more accessible.
Yeah. Staff of Domination was like $40. Now it's like $7. I sold one on
Yeah.
my shop for $7. It was painful for me to list it at that price, but the thing is, it's like everything is going down. So like this is a great time to build a war chest. If you haven't thought about it or whatever, check out the article first of all, if you're still here, congratulations. And you don't know about a war chest, you're still actually listening. I don't know what to say, but definitely check out that article that tells you how to play it. The whole list is there. It's all updated. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and also you came on our podcast and we talked about the war chest for
Right.
the whole episode. So
I will put that episode in the comments as well. And is there anything else you want to say, Eric, before we wrap this up?
This set just looks like a blast. Like I mentioned, I did get to play it sealed, and I thought it was fantastic. We enjoyed it. We're going to use the same pools again. We each were able to build 2 decks out of our pools. I think this exceeded my expectations. Let's put it that way. About a year ago when this set was first announced, I was concerned, given what I'd seen Modern Horizons had done to Modern. When Wizard sets their sight on a different format, sometimes they miss the mark on the wrong direction.
Right.
I think they've done a good job here.
Mm-hmm.
There are cards that, of course, made splashes like Jeweled Lotus and Apex Devastator. But there's a lot of interesting effects in here to mess around with.
Mm-hmm.
And the number, they did a really good job limiting partner to single color.
Mm-hmm.
And none of the partners are overpowered.
Right.
But they make very cool combinations.
Yeah,
I'm very pleased with that.
I was surprised as well. I feel like the same way you did when they were like, I think I even tweeted, I'm like, what would surprise me the most in Commander Legends is to see restraint, right? That would be the most surprising thing Wizards could do to me with Commander Legends. Just have some restraint, because like in the design, in the distribution, just stop like overdoing it. Like just chill, make some cool cards that people are going to like, give us some great reprints, and like everything's going to be cool. And I think that I really think they did. I think they really showed restraint and balance, and even Jeweled Lotus. I really like, to be honest, I think that's a very balanced card. I don't think it's great as a card. Like it's not like, broken. But like I do think I think Jeweled Lotus is probably the worst thing that could have happened to the set. And I think the set is great. I think there's no problem with it. But like the Jeweled Lotus thing is like the scar, or the set is a little bit marred because
it's this set's Hogak, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like nobody wants that. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants to play against that. And nobody, like, from turn 1 to 3, nobody wants to play against it. From turn 3 and on, nobody really wants to play it. You know what I mean? It's just like
yeah. There's no sweet spot for the card, right?
Right. It's just it's tough. But the rest of the set looks insane. It just seems so cool.
In the greater EDH context, I am worried about Reshape the Earth, the
Okay.
green silly spell.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about the Green Court.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are going to be issues. But overall, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. And what I really like, what's going to be a side effect is 6 months down the road, right? There's so many commanders in here,
Mm-hmm.
71 new commanders or something like that.
Yeah.
There's going to be cards in here that get forgotten, and we're going to be coming back months later mining this set. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about this card. Let's build a deck around that.
Right.
There's a ton of that in here, and that has encouraged me.
That's going to be really cool. The depth, and even like if you look at it from a finance perspective, not everybody does that, but like for me, like there's a couple things happening from like Magic Finance that is really interesting. Number one, all the cards are like just going really far down in price, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like stuff like Jeweled Lotus, a Vampire Tutor, all that stuff is carrying the price of the set. But what that's doing is just making a bunch of this stuff really cheap.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's not good. It's not because like 6 months from now, it's not going to be like one of the coolest decks to play in Commander. It's just because processing has not happened yet. So like everyone knows the reprints and they're like, oh, we understand these cards are worth money. But like, we don't know what this Mardu enchantment deck is going to do to like weird enchantments. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We don't know what this stop the clock, your turn is over, maybe is going to do.
Yeah.
Right. And in like Master Oogway, one of my favorite commanders from the set, like that's a cool commander. Things come and play untapped, like Time Vault, and like, it's like, I don't think Time Vault's illegal, but like what I'm saying is like, there's so much there. The depth of like the commanders and the stuff you can build is insane, and all the combinations, like there's going to be stuff discovered later and cards discovered later, which is going to make it seem like old school Commander, like it's a Wild West where you're like figuring out, oh, I haven't built a deck like this before, look at this combination.
I would love to see a creative black-green elves deck come out of
with the elf ball
partner. Not be heavy green, but put some black in here. I want to see what you can do with it.
Right. Yeah. So I'm excited about the set. I think it's great. I mean, dang, they did great, and I love opening it. So it's a lot of fun to open.
Yeah, my stuff. I was unfortunately late to pre-order with my local stores. So my boxes will be arriving early next week, and I'm looking forward to.
Oh, that'll be cool. Yeah. Some people were saying stuff about the prices. My friend, we just opened some what do you call it? Collector's boxes, and he's like, dude, have you seen the prices? They all cratered, And I'm like, I just don't care, because like in 3 months, like all of these cards are going to be worth infinite. Like it's just 6 months. Like just give it time, and because it's a Commander product, it will be expensive.
And there's a lot of going down the finance track here.
Yeah,
there's a lot of first time foils in this set.
Oh yeah,
Path of Ancestry, Command Beacon. Those are going to be sought after.
Right, like Thought Vessel is a first time foil. Those will be sought after. Right now they're not, because like everyone's opening product. But as that supply gets absorbed, and it will, because we are Commander players and we will absorb. That's not a problem.
In theory, this is not a one and done set like a master set. This is supposed to be able to be reprinted if demand calls for it. We'll see. COVID restrictions, in theory, Jumpstart and Mystery Booster are the same way, but we haven't really seen second waves on those. So we'll see what happens here.
Right. Well, thank you for joining me, Eric. Do you want to tell them about your podcast and where they can find you?
Yeah, so I'm the co-host of One Mana Short. We're in a little bit of a transition period right now, as my original co-host has decided to step away from the game for a while, focusing on D&D a little more. We're at onemanashort.com. You can find me on Twitter, One Mana Short. Myself personally, I'm at Proggyboog, PROGGYBOOG. Hit me up. Let us know what you think. The podcast is focused really more on the casual side of Commander. We're not CEDH or heavily optimized players. We like having fun with the game. My former co-host was great at building effective themed decks, heavily themed. He's got a Dragon Ball Z deck and stuff like that. But they're EDH decks, and it's great to play against them. But
Right.
yeah, no, hit me up. Would love to get some feedback. See what you guys think, and yeah, that's how you find me.
Right on, right on. So usually I keep these reviews for the Patreons until we get a new set. But I think this time, because the set's so like pervasive and so impactful to the war chest, I'm gonna just unlock this and keep it open for everyone. Also, I'd love to get some feedback on how you like the review, and then I'd like you to see the newest version of the war chest.
Yeah.
So
I'm very curious to see that myself.
Yeah. So I will definitely provide a bunch of links to Eric's information, my information. You're listening to this, so you probably know how to get a hold of me. I do appreciate you stopping by and listening, and I hope you will build a war chest. And if you do, tell us about it. All right, everybody, have a good one, and thank you for watching. All right. Cool. So I appreciate it. Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun. That
was actually a fast 3+ hours.
Was it 3 hours?
We're at 6:30. So
oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm gonna leave this stuff as long tail stuff for people who really like. I know when I get into something, I always want to see the nitty gritty of like how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Right.
And I think this is like how the sausage is made content. Like, it's not for everyone, but it's like for the person who's building a war chest, it's a big deal, because they get to hear about all these different opinions and stuff.
All right, let me put so that's the link to the episode when you came on with us.
Awesome. And how do I get this recording?
So you hit stop. So I'm going to stop recording.